Before a majestic mountain scene, two people are chatting together. The two of them, just like that together, gazed at the castle before them. I really wanted to show you the view from here at this time of day. It looks very beautiful. But Katerina seemed more practical. So what if it's beautiful? That's just the land of nobles, a place where we can't live. But Seaman made a rather strange remark, humming, "Actually, I could buy a house there. I think this time I'll be promoted to an intermediate mage." Seemingly realizing what he'd said, he had to turn and explain, "I wrote a thesis on a new type of golem, and his seniors really liked it. They said if the elder also acknowledged it, I would very likely get promoted." After all that, Simon sealed it with a proposal. "Although I can't buy a big house, but I can buy one big enough for the two of us to live in. So Katerina, marry me." After saying that, he stepped forward and firmly took Katerina's hand. "You've always put up with so much for me for so long. From now on, I will make you the happiest person in the world." But something seemed to separate the two of them, causing her to reply, "But Seaman." She raised her hand to tease Simon. "Earlier you said you'd become an intermediate mage first." "Huh?" Making him blush furiously. "You're so mean." But Katerina burst out laughing happily. "Ha ha ha, just kidding. It's just I didn't expect a day like this would come for us." Seaman just like that sank into his dreams. "I thought we could be happy." During a meeting, he was unintentionally ignored. "A new magic technique using golems. Elder, you truly are a genius. The thesis you wrote will change the whole world." He had once relentlessly strived, "because I worked so hard for our happiness." Seaman still stood in the room listening to the flattery of his superiors. "Ha ha ha, you're exaggerating. Your Grace, it's all thanks to your investment in me." Then he heard a reply, "If you give me results, I'll invest even more." These words made him so annoyed he clenched his fists. Unfortunately, the results were not as expected, but I was mistaken, even if I try my best my whole life. It seemed everything was wrong and nothing would change. The voices of the officials around him seemed to drone on. One suddenly asked, "But Elder, what about my other request?" The reply came from another's cold voice. "Oh, I forgot." He couldn't bear to listen and had to turn away. "Is that all right? She's just a common woman." But then he suddenly realized even so. Behind Simon, a young woman was being dragged in. She slowly lifted her head at the call, "Simon." This left him utterly astonished. "Katerina." Before they could exchange a word, she was dragged away. "It doesn't mean they can take everything they want and trample on us." One of the two old men spoke up. "I heard she's quite famous for her looks. Indeed, it's true." The other one also said, "That's right. If she didn't have such a lowly background, she would have lived a different life." Life for Seaman at this moment seemed to completely collapse. "This is all I've dreamed of my entire life." That had reached the peak of Seaman's deep-seated anger. Everything. From his palm, a blue sphere gradually formed. "That I protected with all my heart." At this, Simon roared, startling the two old men. "How could you people—" In Simon's hand was the sphere, his face contorted in anger as he advanced. "Destroy everything as if it were nothing." He moved closer and closer to them. "You bastards, get your hands off her now." The old man, seeing this, angrily shouted, "You brat!" He was no less formidable as he began to summon a sphere with a threat. "Don't you know your place? You're just trash." The blow sent Simon's glasses flying, shattering into pieces. At the same time, his body was thrown far back. Katerina witnessed this scene, tears streaming down her face. Seaman, in pain, roared loudly and fell backward. "Ugh!" In that moment, she screamed his name, "Seaman!" At this point, the scene suddenly shifted to Seaman sitting and playing with rats. Rats from nowhere swarmed around him. On Seaman's face now, only utter despair remained. In his heart, words of self-blame echoed, "I can't do anything at all." Then he picked up a rat in his hand, as if by habit, making it squeak. Squeak, 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 squeak. On the wall was a pile of characters to count time. Seaman, just like that, sank into his thoughts. "How do I survive this?" Suddenly, a spear struck his back. The onlookers chattered incessantly. "Oh, look, he's really going to eat that rat. Good thing he's cleaning up this place for us." The other one teased, "Just leave him alone. Even if he's a mage of magic in this state, he's nothing." A guard seemed to be suggesting to him, "Hey, just tell them everything. If you help them summon a golem, they'll release you immediately." But his silence annoyed the guard. "Hey, are you listening?" The other one exclaimed, "Well, I told you he went completely mad after that girl died." They left still gossiping. "But why did she die? Killed herself to protect her chastity. What a pity." The chatter echoed in Simon's ears. "She was very beautiful. Such a pity to die like that." These words made him so angry he dug his nails into his hand until it bled. Even though a long time had passed, he was still sad. "I'm sorry, Katerina." Rats from nowhere kept crawling out noisily. The guards saw this and were bewildered. "Why are you guys so strange today? What do you want?" One suddenly noticed something strange and shouted, "Something's very strange," and was asked back, "What?" One of the guards spoke up. "Wait." Stab one, making the rat squeak. Under the rat's body, a red mark suddenly appeared. That thing glowed brighter and brighter. The others were terrified by this scene. Damn. In the room was Seaman with the thought, "I'm too weak." His hand smeared a streak of red syrup on the ground. His eyes still seemed completely unmoved. The others, seeing this, panicked and shouted, "Damn it, stop what you're doing now." But the reply was only an indifferent voice. "You want me to stop?" Seaman growled at the soldiers. "I have only just begun." His hand suddenly slammed onto the ground. The marked rats gradually flew into the air. His heart finally understood. "If I were stronger," Seaman's face showed clear regret, "I wouldn't have lost you." The magic circle kept expanding around him. Then a huge explosion erupted from it. Seaman stood up in victory, proud and defiant. Before the soldiers stood Seaman with a giant monster. That's right. He turned and declared to them, "That is the face of Katerina back then." The soldiers saw this and froze stiff. A thought occurred to him. I tried to think of the reason. The rat monster swung its arm, once logging the soldiers out of Earth's server. That is the meaning of life to me, the reason why I'm still alive. The wall next to it also continuously exploded. Seaman spoke coldly. Perhaps it's because the small rats had all mutated. I need to take revenge on this accursed world that didn't let us live happily together. As he walked, Simon said contentedly, "You don't need to worry, Katerina. I won't be weak like before anymore." He gradually declared to everyone, "I will seize any power." The pain made tears stream down his face. "I will change everything." On the other side, an explosion suddenly shook heaven and earth. That old man saw it and was bewildered. "Seaman, you bastard!" Before him was Seaman proudly riding a rat. "You've lost your mind. Why are you using dark magic, a pure soul working for a demon?" But Seaman remained unmoved. "So what?" The other old man, knowing better, tucked his tail and ran. "Spare me, I can let you become the master of this place." He stood before Seaman and screamed, "If you spare me, I'll do anything, so please." However, he still raised his hand seal and asked, "Anything?" As soon as he finished speaking, a bolt of lightning struck. "But you can't resurrect the dead, can you?" In his mind, an explosion of anger. "This accursed world, Katerina, I will destroy everything." Elsewhere, the king was standing with someone. The king then spoke Hero Lacan. From his mouth came the words, "Please save the world from falling into darkness." It was all because of the good Seaman had done. The demon lord's army brought darkness, trampled upon the god's domain, and massacred innocent people. The country's mountains gradually withered. That demon army has destroyed 2 kingdoms and a duchy. The fate of the world. Finally, he returned to the main point. Can only lie in your hands, Hero Lacan. He had placed all his trust in him. Therefore, kill the demon lord. Outside, red flags fluttered with the echoing instruction, and save the world. Lacan held the sword in his hand, gazing intently. Suddenly, he raised his sword high and called out, "O mighty warriors of the holy empire of Artenia." His voice resounded with power like a calming incantation. "Everyone, the light of the empire has lost its strength, and a colossal shadow is swallowing the continent of Lost Asia." But Lacan didn't give up because of that. "However, we will not falter. For our families and for this entire world." The sword suddenly flashed like a tiny glimmer of hope. "Today, I will kill the demon lord and become the last hope to protect the world." Old memories seemed to resurface. Simon and Katerina cleaning the library. She chirped about the hot news on the street. "Simon, have you heard the news? Why would they chop off a child's hand just for stealing bread?" Katerina looked extremely angry and dissatisfied with that news. Even though Simon tried to restrain her anger, it seemed to have no effect. "Katerina, you're too loud. What if someone hears, 'The nobles only know how to punish others because they've never been hungry'?" Katerina's reproaches were all reasonable, but given their status at the time, they couldn't change anything. Why was that child punished so unreasonably just because of their class from birth? Katerina truly was a kind girl with deep compassion. She kept pondering the story of a strange child. "We didn't want to be born into this position either." Seaman looked at Katerina's serious expression, hesitating silently for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "Perhaps that day will come." Seaman spoke of a world that both he and the person in his dreams aspired to. That beautiful world like a dream, when social status is no longer an issue and we all live equally and freely. Seaman was lost in thought when Katerina's voice interrupted his reverie. "Seaman, She approached Simon decisively, expressing her thoughts. It seemed Katerina was a woman of action. A day like that won't come just by waiting. Simon immediately became flustered, stammering, "Huh, so what do you want to do?" Katerina approached, making Simon's cheeks turn red. She was still thinking about a future world. "We have to change it the way we want. If not then?" Katerina seriously pondered this issue. She even envisioned their future children. "The children we raise later will have to go through similar things." The mention of children startled Simon, making him drop the stack of books in his hands. His face turned beet red, his movements becoming clumsy. His voice stammered and trembled. "Children, we're not even married yet, Katerina." Seeing Simon's clueless reaction, Katerina seized the opportunity to tease him. "That's not important. Aren't you going to marry me?" Simon began to sink into fantasies of a house and children. Just thinking about it made him incredibly excited. "I will, but I'm not ready yet." Katerina put her hands on her hips, resolutely questioning Simon. "So are you going to marry me or not?" "Of course I am." Seeing Simon engrossed in picking up books, Katerina also quickly sat down, not forgetting to reproach him a little. "Phew, you're terrible, Simon." Katerina, with her blushing cheeks, made a promise with Simon, an eternal promise, expressing her willingness to accompany Simon. "You're so shy. I'm the only one who will marry you, huh?" Beautiful memories flashed by. The sweeter the past, the more cruelly colored the present. Simon alone stood proudly beneath an ancient castle. Beneath the howling cold wind, the longing for his soulmate surged. He called her name to ease his longing, Katerina. Simon reached this point thanks to Katerina's love, thanks to the dream she always dreamt of. Soon, everything will end. Facing Simon was a formidable army, fully equipped with weapons. "It will take quite some time, but the world we've always desired, I will make it a reality." That elite army was meticulously equipped from head to toe. Not even a toe was exposed. Everyone looked extremely tense. A heavy atmosphere enveloped the life-or-death battle. Leading the army was the hero, Lacan. He carried with him bravery. His cloak fluttered in the wind. He spoke clearly. "Demon Lord Seaman, the entire world suffers because of you." His blue eyes shone with determination. Lacan truly looked like the leader of an entire army. But today, that will end. Hero Lacan pointed his treasured sword toward Simon, shouting his oath before the entire army. "I swear in the name of God and justice all your crimes will be judged today." Hearing the stern words from Lacan, Simon just laughed loudly, emitting a clear sound of mockery. Simon's crazed laughter echoed across the battlefield, mingling with the wind, making one shiver to hear it. "Wahaha!" With an unmistakably mocking tone, Simon openly scorned Lacan's justice and ideals. "God's justice. You intend to judge me with those things." A heavy, deathly aura emanated from Simon. Simon seemed to fall into a bottomless abyss full of demonic nature. "Suffering," he declared. "Go ahead. Do you really think I'll be afraid of your false gods and fabricated justice?" Lacan, of course, wouldn't allow anyone to blaspheme his faith. He shouted loudly, "Of course." Hero Lacan raised the treasured sword in his hand, shouting clearly to rouse the spirit of the entire army. "Countless imperial heroes stand here with me to judge you." Lacan once again reiterated the purpose of the bloody battle, clearly showing his spirit of self-sacrifice. "Today, we will defeat the demon lord." He charged forward, initiating the battle, declaring the do-or-die battle officially begun. To protect the world, EEO. The entire formidable army behind advanced, following Lacan, their morale sky high. Advance. Simon, who had already lost his composure, now became even more frenzied. "Who are you to dare judge me?" The pupils in Simon's eyes turned completely red, a color symbolizing suffering. "I am the one who will be judged." Simon drew a blazing red magic diagram, summoning flickering bolts of lightning. He struck a blow into the middle of the formation. "The day I lost Katerina, justice died." All the soldiers rushing towards that formation were suddenly affected, making their movements strangely slow. Simon's eyes showed extreme hatred, an unconcealable rage. "I no longer believe in those illusions." The soldiers were rooted to the spot, unable to resist the powerful technique from Simon. "I will show you what I believe in." Red lightning bolts covered the entire sky, engulfing the space, twisting together to form a monster. Simon's power erupted in the space, madly expanding. Power! A golem appeared, opening wide its mouth full of sharp teeth, aggressively roaring, threatening the soldiers. Lacan was still struggling with all his might against the immense power in the space. Simon smirked, a look of triumph appearing on his hate-filled face. "Look, hero." The soldiers witnessed the most terrifying golems gradually emerging. Everyone's face turned pale. This is the day true justice is born. Cast aside your false beliefs, hero. Lacan's eyes narrowed, his expression growing even more serious. With his power, Seaman didn't just summon one golem, but a horde of countless golems. They could level everything. Today will mark the beginning of a new era. The golems began to attack. Their overwhelming strength and size terrified people. Screams echoed in the space. The soldiers' morale gradually became unstable. Damn it. He summoned so many golems. Don't be afraid. If we retreat, there's no future left. Seaman's face dark circled and clearly showing fatigue observed the situation. He spoke contemptuously, fools. Contempt was evident in every word Seaman uttered. You're just trash, nothing but social status to cling to. How dare you resist true power? Standing on the hand of a golem looking at the ruins beneath his feet, Seaman thought everything had come to an end. It's over. I will wipe all of you out. But there was still a pair of feet that hadn't faltered. A voice rang out. Demon Lord? Simon? Hero Lacan, still full of fighting spirit, charged forward. You cannot be forgiven. Lacan unleashed a shocking slash. The golden light of his sword streaked across the golem's body, leaving it no time to react. I will end your crimes right now. Seeing Lacan's decisive and powerful strike, Seaman couldn't help but be surprised. He defeated a high-level golem with just one blow. I see. The reason I couldn't defeat the kingdom of Livia, no matter how many golems I sent. Looking at Lacan's resolute face, Seaman understood why he hadn't conquered the entire world. It's because of you. Seaman's resentment for Lacan grew even more. Hero Lacan. On Lacan's side, he also looked at the Demon Lord with hateful eyes. Demon Lord? Seaman, you? Hero Lacan let out a powerful shout, gaining momentum to dash past all the golems, using his fastest speed to fly toward Simon. You will die here. A rain of fetid blood, merciless blades. The battlefield was surrounded by a deathly aura, your corpses scattered around. Finally overcoming all obstacles, Hero Lacan closed in on Seaman. Excessive fighting had left him somewhat exhausted, sweat dripping out of breath. With an unshakable, resolute gaze, Lacan was determined to have a decisive battle. Let's end this. Demon Lord Simon? The only defensive golem behind Seaman had also been slashed into pieces by Lacan. Even Seaman was gradually reaching his limit. He spoke, Hero Lacan. Hero Lacan struggled to breathe, trying to recover after the long battle. As Lacan raised his sword high, preparing for a decisive strike, Seaman's voice made him pause. You don't know. Seaman just uttered a few disjointed words, but it made Lacan hesitate for a moment. The world is rotten. Seaman shed tears, tears of pain, torment, or perhaps tears of relief at being freed. If not for you, but Simon's eyes still held flickers of resentment. Every word Simon uttered made Lacan terribly uncomfortable, to the point where sweat dripped down his face. I can start over. After destroying everything, Seaman became uncontrollably frenzied. The tears he shed turned to blood. Lacan, I curse you. Your entire bloodline will spend their lives suffering. Lacan tightened his grip on the sword. It seemed he had just made a firm decision. Without hesitating another moment, Lacan delivered a slash that sent Seaman's head falling to the ground. Seaman's layer of memory fell into Katerina's sweet voice, the gentle voice he always longed for. Do you know, Seaman? When you smile and are with me healthy and without any problems? The scene of the two of them standing side by side, peacefully happy, always existed in Seaman's mind. That's when I'm happiest. Saying that, Katerina tiptoed to get closer to Seaman. The two exchanged a sweet kiss, a testament to their inseparable bond. Katerina's cheeks were flushed red. She shyly spoke, I love you, Seaman. Seaman woke up from a peaceful dream, confusion clear on his face. He was lying on a large bed, not the chaotic battlefield from before. Seaman touched his neck, still not understanding what was happening. A dream. Feeling his body still intact, Seaman couldn't help but be surprised. My head is still on my neck. Simon raised his hand to rub his head, trying to get his brain working. My head hurt so much. Looking at his fair, healthy hand, Simon continued his questioning. No wounds. What happened? At this moment, he finally looked around the room, realizing this place was completely unfamiliar. Where am I? I've never seen this room before. Am I in a foreign country? Looking at the luxurious architecture of this place, 1,000 questions jumped into Simon's mind. How am I still alive? Even dark magic can't bring the dead back to life. If it could, I would have done it already. Many questions flashed by, but the one that troubled Simon the most was, why am I still alive? Then suddenly, something caught Simon's eye, drawing his attention. It was a picture of a person in armor standing proudly hanging on the wall. What? This person was none other than Lacan. Why is there a painting of that bastard? Here, suddenly from the door, a person dressed like a butler appeared. Young master. This person seemed very surprised, his eyes wide as he exclaimed, "Oh heavens, you're awake." As soon as he finished speaking, he quickly rushed over and hugged Simon, tightly overcome with emotion. "How fortunate you've been unconscious for 2 weeks. We thought we had lost the last Lacan." Seaman finally reacted, struggling and shouting, "Wait, young master, who are you?" Seeing Seaman's strange expression, the butler was flustered and trembling. "Young master, what do you mean? You don't recognize me." He immediately collapsed, completely sinking to the ground and wailing, "What do you mean? You don't recognize me?" "Oh heavens, the accident has made you lose your memory. It's my fault for not taking proper care of you." He even shed tears of sorrow. "That's right, I'll tell you everything." Then he suddenly stood up, updating Seaman with information. "Perhaps it's only temporary. Perhaps you'll remember everything when I tell you." A shocking piece of information was quickly announced by him. "I don't know if it's good news or bad, but you will soon become the lord of this place, the heir of Viscount Lacan of the Baroque Empire." The picture on the wall now made sense. It turned out Simon had fallen into the Lacan family and was a descendant of the great hero Lacan. And now perhaps Seaman was living with a different identity, something he had never expected Luc de Lacan. His eyes widened in disbelief, his body trembling. What? He was immersed in doubt with the series of information he had just heard. Lacan is dead 500 years ago. His face was almost pale. Everything that happened was so absurd. So I've been reincarnated as a descendant of Lacan 500 years later. Luke panted. So it's 500 years later now. Luke was dazed because it seemed he still hadn't fully recovered his senses. The butler also couldn't predict his actions. Seaman in Luke's body used all his strength to run. Damn it! Despite Mr. Hans chasing and trying to stop him, "Young master, you shouldn't move in this condition." Couldn't believe he was reincarnated as a descendant of the one who killed him. "You want me to believe this? You must think I'm a fool. This can't be happening." Luke gripped the doorknob tightly. He forcefully threw open the 2 balcony doors. "It's simply—" Luke's mouth fell open in shock. He shouted, "Impossible." It seemed there was something unfamiliar before his eyes. A towering suit of iron armor like a gigant stood imposingly before him. He clung to the railing to look at it. "What is that?" Witnessing a future masterpiece calmed his mood. If that thing exists, it means everything he said is true. He analyzed it with the eyes of a former warrior. "Looking at that complexity, I can tell this weapon is much more advanced than golem magic. Couldn't imagine the future could create something like this. The magic I could only imagine is right before my eyes." The butler gently approached him. "Young master." Luke suddenly calmed down and asked him, "What did you say your name was earlier?" He placed his hand on his chest, bowing respectfully. "My name is Hans, your attendant." Luke considered that he had heard clearly. Hans. His eyes never left that weapon for a second. "What am I looking at?" Hans looked up in the direction of his young master. "That thing." He was of course knowledgeable about it. "It's called a gigant, a bipedal humanoid weapon." Luke wanted to test his hypothesis. "A humanoid weapon. Is it made from golem magic?" Mr. Han didn't completely deny it. "Half right." The butler began to explain further about it. "Because the origin of what's called a gigant, is made from magi-science technology. Speaking of that, another element cannot be missing, and magic. Why golem magic was only half right." Han also explained, "Due to advanced technology, it's not like golems that are remotely controlled. In fact, this is the key difference. The gigant has a pilot sitting right inside." Luke frowned, questioning again to be sure. "A human sits in that thing," he confirmed, "because that's how it operates." "Yes, that's right." He rested his chin on his hand, thinking. Putting a person inside sounds a bit impossible. It requires a lot of advanced technology to be able to pilot it from inside. He turned to look at the gigant. But if what Mr. Hans said is true, this is truly an amazing weapon. Although piloting it is very difficult, it's highly optimized. The pilot is protected from external threats during combat and reacts faster compared to remotely controlled golems. Regardless, it's still a masterpiece. It solves all the problems I encountered when using golems. The butler kept questioning the young master's actions. He folded his arms and strode into the room. Behind him, the butler called, "Young master, wait!" Luke's footsteps suddenly stopped. But he had realized something noteworthy. If this is true, it means 500 years have passed. Seaman stared at his new body, reproaching, "Why, Why did I have to be reincarnated as a descendant of my enemy? Then it was a tiring day for the butler. He shouted, "Young master!" Luke, though, just awakened, chugged a bottle of alcohol. He didn't care about anyone standing right on the table to drink, despite Mr. Hans rushing to stop him. "Young master, you can't push yourself too hard." The butler couldn't use force and could only plead, "Please, calm down." Luke, his face flushed, put down the bottle and glared at him. He still didn't want to accept the truth. "You said I'm a descendant of Lacan." He thought it was very simple and replied immediately, "Yes." He, in a drunken state, raised the bottle. "So what, I'm healthier than most?" Suddenly a headache hit him. Luke's eyes widened. Then he knelt on the ground, the bottle rolling away. He bent over, panting. "Damn it! What was that?" Mr. Hans, alarmed, wanted to help him. "I warned you, young master." He mentioned something strange. "You must be careful of that curse." Luke, startled, questioned the butler. "A curse?" He silently looked at him, sighing inwardly. I had hoped, but he really doesn't remember anything. He was both curious and impatient. "Speak, Hans. What is this curse you speak of?" He began to piece things together and narrate. Where should I begin? He began his lengthy explanation. "Your ancestor, Lord Lacan, led the army to defeat the demon lord's forces, who wanted to destroy everything. After that fierce battle, he regained peace. I've gotten this far." Luke reminded Mr. Hans, "Get to the main point. All right, to the main issue regarding the curse. Lord Lacan was praised for his efforts to save the world, but he died young due to the demon lord's curse. Wasn't the demon lord's semen you don't remember anything? A curse. How could I? A stream of memories flashed by. His past self had cursed Lacan. Your entire bloodline will spend their lives suffering. It could only be those words." He thought, "Is that it? Wait, that was just..." Sigh. He tried to justify it to himself. "I only said that when I was angry." 500 years ago, the peaceful world faced the threat of destruction by the demon lord. His dark magic could summon golems more powerful than any army. He had wiped out countless heroes with just a snap of his fingers. It seemed the demon lord was about to conquer the entire world, but thanks to the upright warrior Lacan. After a life-or-death battle, Simon died under Lacan's blade. The world was peaceful once more. However, the demon lord had cursed the warrior before he died, causing him and his bloodline to die painfully at a young age. At this point, Luke uncomfortably closed the history book. He, as a character in the story, could only resentfully say, "Huh, they just make up stories as they please, huh?" He frowned, defending the demon lord. "I didn't curse anyone from the beginning. Do they really believe that curse could last that long?" Luke fell silent to ponder for a moment. Thought he had realized some truth. Who knew he would say, "Anyway, it's my fault for losing." Luke sighed again, remembering he had to be a descendant of his enemy. "But why was I born into the house of my sworn enemy? With such a predicament, it's as if I'm the one who's cursed." He put that history book back on the shelf and took another. Luke began to accept living again. "This is my second chance, the one who died before achieving his goal. I can't face Katarina like this." It seemed he wasn't paying much attention to the book, lost in thought. This rotten world has existed for another 500 years. I can't imagine how decadent it has become. Perhaps he intended to rebuild a new empire. No matter how much time passes, surely not all my subordinates have been wiped out. But to begin this journey, of course, he had to learn about this era first. If I can meet my subordinates again this time, I will change the world. A new day at Luke's villa, in Luke's room. He must be working hard to fulfill the ideals of his past life. But no, the book was lying haphazardly on the table. In the room, there was a curse. Damn it! Luke, apathetic to life, was chugging a bottle of alcohol. "Searching for subordinates, my ass?" He gritted his teeth in anger. Forget it all. They've almost forgotten the demon lord. Reality was cruel to a demon lord like Seaman. "It's been too long, 100 years. No trace of my existence remains." He moved awkwardly, his body as soft as noodles. On top of that, now with Luke's identity, he had nothing. This body has no mana, no vitality. What can I do a second before disaster? His two legs tripped over each other. Thud. The sound of his fall could be heard on the other side of the hemisphere. His body fell flat on the floor. He cried out, "Ugh!" Helplessness enveloped him. He lay there questioning himself. What should I do now? His hand clenched into a fist. Right then, he thought of her unconsciously calling out, "Katarina." All the failures of the past rushed back. Luke asked, "Can't we do anything in this life either?" He weakly pressed his face to the ground. "I just want to create a world where everyone can live equally to the fullest." Suddenly, Someone's voice seemed to jolt him back to reality. Young master. Luke lay on the ground with a dazed expression. What? He went to the balcony to see who it was. What's going on? Why is it so noisy? Below, a man's voice answered, How much longer do you intend to avoid us? A merchant was already waiting below. We merchants will not back down until we can speak with you, young master. The people from the Allen Merchants Association, led by branch manager Darren. He boldly predicted the situation. Do I owe money that bastard Lacan? Your descendants are truly fierce. Branch manager Darren confidently read the number 30,000 pesos. You borrowed it from us last year to develop a mine. His tone gradually changed, becoming fiercer. But since then, you've completely ignored us. Are you going to pay or not? I can't live like this anymore. Butler Hans quickly explained and reassured, the young master needs to rest due to his poor condition. We will find a way to pay. You should come back another time. Darren replied with a cunning smile. No, I must hear what the young master has to say myself. A line of Luke's guards stood stock still, only his voice was heard. Look at this reaction. As a businessman, Darren saw through it. It seems you can't pay immediately, huh? Well, 30,000 pesos is not a small amount. He leisurely stroked his mustache and said, I'll make an offer. He had long targeted something in this villa. Why don't you hand over the gigant in the house? It might not be worth 30,000 since it's old. I've made a great offer, haven't I? The guard shouted to stop his intention. Impossible. Knight Commander Rogers fiercely resisted. We only have 3 gigants. How can we protect the territory? He was very resolute about it. No way you can kill me, but you can't take the gigant. That's for defense. Butler Hans spoke up to console. Calm down. That won't happen. Accountant Dixon proposed another negotiation. So instead of accepting the offer, why don't we raise taxes? The 3 of them argued back and forth for a while. Dixon, don't you see how the people are doing? We can't let the few remaining people leave. So the only way is to hand over the gigant. I said, it's impossible. Luke stood on the upper floor laughing like an outsider. This house is really fun. That bastard Lacan should see this. Suddenly, someone spoke loudly, making all action stop. Everyone calm down. Mr. Darren stated his intention directly. Personally, I want to take the gigant and the manor, but I don't want others to think I'm robbing the house of a great hero. He pointed to the gigant in the courtyard. So, what about that thing? The Knight Commander still tried hard to prevent this transaction. Are you kidding? I've said so many times that gigant, Darren quickly explained immediately. You must have misunderstood. He pointed in that direction again. Not the gigant, but the magic tower behind it. Everyone was bewildered by this scene. The magic tower. He seemed to be frozen stiff by this scene. The magic tower, huh? It's better than the gigant. Another person said, no one goes there anymore. He didn't stop there, but continued. Previously, we made some profit by attracting people. Some even said it was the source of the curse, but now it's useless. Seaman stood on the corridor cursing under his breath. What the hell? Lacan, you bastard? Then his eyes suddenly caught sight of something. That is... He looked at the castle before him and couldn't help but think, my castle, 500 years ago at the Demon Lord's Tower where it currently stands. My home was very far from there, the place where I once lived with Katerina, an old and dilapidated place. But that was our home, a warm resting place we always dreamed of. The area around the Demon Tower has entered our guild's territory. How dare they go there? Darren laughed and said, ha ha ha, please don't worry too much. With the guild's diverse capabilities, we will turn that place into a tourist attraction. This will also boost the economy of this area, right? The 3 merchants heard the offer, thought for a moment, and said, well, where do we sign? Suddenly, the ground shook violently, making them stumble. The merchant saw Seaman approaching with a murderous aura, and trembling with fear said, young master, are you all right walking like that? Seaman just glared and said, get out of the way. Darren saw him and said in an arrogant tone, oh dear, who is this? It's so hard to meet you, young master. Have you recovered? I must say the conversation with your subordinates went very smoothly. Now all we need is a signature to confirm our guild will take over the Demon Tower. Seaman immediately asked back, is that all you know how to say? Yes. He, furious and murderous, said, do you know what place that is? And you dare demand to take over that place? Darren and the soldiers behind him were also frightened by his expression. Why so fierce? He's very different from what I heard. He quickly said, we are very sympathetic to your situation, if you say so. Seaman quickly interrupted. Shut up, you swindler. Oh, after taking the central land of the territory, not far from my main manor, you intend to expand your influence and power under the pretext of developing the area and allow others to freely enter and exit under the guise of tourism, right? At this he was surprised. See, am I wrong? Darren stammered in reply. That's too far-fetched. Not only are you too pathetic to sell used weapons, but you also intend to seize the entire territory. Compared to incompetent people, he then pointed angrily and said, I hate ugly people from the inside like you more. Darren, unable to resist, gritted his teeth and frowned, thinking, I can't let him get the upper hand, I have to retaliate more strongly. Saying that, he pointed and shouted, the Locken family can't pay its debts. That's why we thoughtfully proposed this. The Merchant Guild has to get its money back right. Seaman immediately spoke up. Who said we haven't paid our debts? In 15 days. No, 10 days we will pay everything back, both principal and interest. Yes, he said with a determined look. Get out of here now. Saying that, a dark flame shot towards the cunning and greedy Darren. He immediately broke out in a cold sweat, terrified. He glanced sideways, ordering his subordinates to quickly retreat. As he left, he shouted loudly, let's see if you can keep your word. Seaman folded his arms and said, these people are always like this. Young master. Rogers gritted his teeth and said, I can't believe you'd say that to him. What? Our subordinates were very moved by his words. The three of them stood solemnly, hands on their chests, proudly shedding tears. You are truly perceptive to see through their plan. More importantly, to see you angrily stand up to protect the achievements and honor of our ancestors. But Seaman, confused, asked, perceptive achievements, what are you talking about? Rogers stepped forward to explain to him. I didn't expect you to be so proud of the family's honor, ma'am. That bastard merchant couldn't utter a word due to your strong rebuttal. At that moment, we saw the image of your ancestor, Hero Lekan, within you. Hearing these praises, Seaman didn't feel happy at all. On the contrary, he glared. These useless bastards, they've turned me into the demon lord again. Butler Han said, may I ask how you intend to pay the debt? 300,000 pesos. How much is that? He then explained, you can buy 10,000 bags of wheat with that amount. It's equivalent to the value of a new warrior class bachelor unit. Right now, we don't have enough collateral to borrow money from banks or other merchants. Do you have a way? But after hearing it, he just declared one sentence. Not helpful at all. If that's all you can say, get out of the way. I'll pay the debt myself. Just stand there and watch. Saying that, he turned and walked away. Current assets, not a single coin left. Facilities are dilapidated and tattered. Food is just a few meager vegetable dishes. Seaman threw the pile of papers into the air, then said, isn't this the house of the person who killed the demon lord? Why is there nothing at all? Did you steal everything? Butler Han meekly replied, no, why would you say that? Look at the family tree and you'll understand. But Seaman just said coldly, you think I'll look? He then began to introduce to him, after Hero Lakan killed the demon lord, he was granted the title of Marquis and a vast territory in the south of the kingdom of Livia. Then, see, at that time, Duke Baroque incited a rebellion against the kingdom of Livia. Viscount Lacan fought against him because he couldn't stand such injustice. However, the Viscount, due to the demon lord's curse, suffered a disastrous defeat. After that, his title was revoked, and he was exiled to the border where he passed away due to rapidly declining health. After hearing this, he frowned and thought, it seems Lacan didn't intend to build a manor here. But the financial situation of this house is terrible. How could it endure 500 years like this? I ask, how did we end up in this situation? Butler Hans just sighed and replied, that it's because our ancestors wanted us to regain our former glory. What did you say? In order to return to how things were, the previous generations of ancestors would do anything, even if they had to use all their assets, power, everything they owned. They wanted to restore the reputation of this family. But due to the curse passed down through many generations, no matter how hard they worked, all efforts became futile. So the family that was once the home of the hero who saved the world just collapsed like that. I don't know if you remember, the reason you were unconscious for over half a month due to the gigant accident was because you overworked yourself to restore the family's honor. You wanted to prove you had the qualities of a hero and pushed yourself too hard. Hearing this, Seaman suddenly stood up and left. Young master, so our current situation is that we can't do anything. He pensively looked out the window. Butler Hans quickly, with a somber face, said, even as a butler, I can't help you. I sincerely apologize. Suddenly, an idea involuntarily came to him. Butler Hans smiled and said, but surely we can do something. Even if I have to risk my life, I will find a way to accumulate the necessary total amount. He just replied, no need. I just thought of a way. We just need to somehow pay the money, right? When he said, somehow pay the money, on the debt repayment day, everyone was astonished, their mouths agape. How is it possible? I didn't think he would. Young master took the statue of Hero Lakon. It must be a dream. The pillar of this family is gone and he sold it. Nah. Clearly yesterday Lord Lacan's statue was still here. Where could it have gone now? No, that's not important right now. We have to find the young master. Everyone looked panicked and worried. Suddenly, a soldier came to report, Mr. Hans, something's happened. What is it? Butler Hans, with a frightened expression, said, No, that's not important now. Where's the young master? The soldier then said, I think he left while the security team was injured. Mr. Hans the butler heard this and collapsed to his knees, covering his face. He angrily shouted, Young master, what scheme is this? At this moment this young master was carrying the statue on horseback and leaving. The coachman turned his head and asked, Young master, can I ask you a question? Seaman replied, Yes, but who are you? The other person suddenly laughed and said, Have you forgotten? I am Philip, serving as your knight protector. Young master, do you really want to sell this statue? Seaman, flushed from drinking, replied, Well, yes. This could fetch a pretty high price if I melt it down. Philip heard this, turned his head back and shouted, This may not concern me, but it has 500 years of history. Seaman just gently said, Can 500 years of history feed me? He continued, But you can't pay off all the debt even if you sell this painting. Selling this painting is just a part of my plan. Hearing this, Philip burst out laughing and said, Wonderful. So you have a whole plan. Well, I'm sure everyone will understand as long as you pay the debt. So may I ask what your plan is? My plan? Seaman, very drunk, said, I will use the money from selling the statue to gamble. I will earn 30,000 pesos by gambling. Hearing this, Philip was speechless. Then he quickly reined in the carriage. Gambling. What will happen if you lose all the money you have? Seaman, annoyed, said, Why do you keep lecturing me when you're with me? He then replied, You were the one who dragged me out at dawn. Philip, startled, said, If I had known this was your plan, I wouldn't have gone with you. He trembled and said, Why don't we go back now and beg for forgiveness? We can come up with a new plan. Seaman immediately asked, Are you an idiot? What? He then explained, Think about it. If we go back now, I'll need to explain why I took the statue. If my reason is that I need money to gamble, they will definitely never forgive me. I'm sure I'll be permanently kicked out of the house if I go back right now. Philip heard this as if struck by lightning and asked, Really? No. I guess they wouldn't do that to me because I'm still the young master. I guess you'll be the only one. Kicked out. Hearing this, the other person trembled with fear. He laughed loudly and continued, You better choose carefully. Think about which one will be better for you. Do you want to be a homeless person with no money? Or do you want to be a hero who brings honor to this family? Choose Philip. Philip hesitated, stammering, I will. Then with a somber face said, Continue on the path we are on? Very good. Let's do that. Philip cursed Seaman inwardly. Damn it. I heard his personality changed when he woke up from the coma. But basically, he's still a demon. At the harbor, 5 minutes until departure. All aboard. Are we really going to do this? What should we go back? Let's just continue. Saying that, the two of them boarded the boat and continued. Depart. The boat set sail, speeding across the ocean. It was already getting dark. At Port City Lamb, Philip immediately carried out the transaction to sell the statue. He then received the money. That's the statue of a great hero who saved the world, and you offer that price? I'll go bankrupt if I pay you more. Hey, Philip. AEG. Seaman pointed and ordered, Lead the way. At 9 fragrances, we can get more. That's enough. This place must have changed. Have you been here before? Seaman replied, A little, though it wasn't like this back then. Speaking of this, he thought, Back then we couldn't get here easily because of the Kraken. Basically, it was a deserted island. Good heavens, it's already been 500 years. Then he continued to Philip, But it was a good idea to choose to come here. Philip, please, said, Really thank you, young master. I don't know when you were last here, but it will definitely be different from what you remember. This place is the second largest city in the southern region of the empire, so everything is constantly changing. It's an island that people can easily reach, because there's the Kraken and a few other sea monsters. But with the development of magic techniques as well as weapons, this place has become much more populated. Oh, I see. So the gambling dens here are really big. Are you sure you'll be all right? Seaman, with a somber face, retorted, Philip, if I weren't confident, I would never have come here. Instantly, the two of them arrived at that incredibly glamorous large casino. Now let's go inside. Philip quickly raised his hand to stop him. Wait, young master. Philip, a bit tense, panted, Let me catch my breath first. He then turned his head and asked, What are you afraid of? Philip replied, How are you so calm? Do you know how to win these games? Seaman said with a smug look. When it comes to gambling, composure is everything. Not good at all. Looks like I've won again. Entering the casino after continuously losing, Seaman's expression changed. Now what will you continue? Seaman remained silent, not daring to speak. That guy looked up to the sky and laughed gleefully. Lukek is smiling on me today. Good heavens, and you're indeed very generous. He was dazed. It's all right. Ability is also a part of Lukek. They were so noisy that everyone had to turn their heads to look. He smirked, raised an eyebrow, and picked up a coin. It's truly an honor to play a game with such a wonderful young master. However, he looked at the table where only a few of Lacan's coins remained and said sarcastically, "It seems you're out of coins. Should we end the game here?" His face expressionless, he ordered, "We can't do that. Philip exchanged all the remaining money for coins." He startled, clutched the bag of money to his chest. "What? We can't do that. If you lose this too, then—" He shouted, "Don't argue. Bring it here now." That guy chuckled smugly. The fool is losing his cool. I'm very Lukaki today. The stacks of coins were laid out. I'll bet my entire fortune. Lacan rested his hand, his expression serious. With this much, I'll bet everything. Philip stood aside, covering his mouth, crying streams of tears. This family is finished. That guy confirmed, "Your entire fortune. Are you sure?" He smirked. "I'm worried because this is the first time I've played such a big game." "But I'm sure you'll be fine, right, young master?" He didn't flinch at all. "Well, worrying about this won't change the outcome." He subtly winked. "Impressive. In that case?" The girl behind Lacan nodded as a signal. He asked, "Shall we confirm our cards?" He raised 3 cards, shouting, "Damn it, wow. Lady Luke is definitely on my side today." He leaned forward, wanting to grab all the coins. "Well, that's a pity. I'll take these coins." Suddenly, he stopped him. "Wait," he gently said. "You also need to see my cards, don't you?" He placed his 3 cards on the table. "Surprisingly, I have these cards." He jumped and shouted, "What, that impossible?" He smugly extended his hand forward. "Aren't sudden reversals the joy of gambling? It was indeed an interesting match." Philip was so happy he cried. "Young master, I trusted you." The other guy angrily slammed the table. "No way." He pointed directly and questioned, "It's impossible for you to have those cards. What trick did you use?" His next words made the 2 girls behind him startle. "Tricks? Are you talking about letting the people behind me?" He exposed them. "Reveal my cards." He heard it like a thunderbolt. How could he know that? He frowned in annoyance. Does he really think I wouldn't know? Lacan had observed everything. All the onlookers around were his subordinates, and I knew they were secretly passing cards to each other, he recalled. But the reason I foolishly fell into that trap— Philip kept holding his head. "Young master," he was tired of him. "Shut up, kid," he revealed. "That is because I needed to touch all the cards. I left small mana marks on them. If I can control the cards with those marks. So for me, who once managed an army of golems changing cards, is like a walk in the park." Lacan thought to himself, "I can easily win all the matches without using complicated tricks." He smirked at the person trembling with anger in front of him. "Hey, quickly admit that you've lost." He didn't admit defeat, but said, "I think today's work ends here. Give this young master—" He had just finished speaking. "A little lesson in etiquette." The people around immediately drew daggers towards Lacan. He calmly wondered, after 500 years, why are these bastards still the same? He smirked and glanced at him. "I don't have the same amount of mana as before, but facing a few insignificant people like you is no problem." A dazzling blue light immediately appeared in his hand. He stood up straight to face them. "Come on!" Outside, his hand was on his sword, ready to draw. A shout was heard. "Young Master Duck!" His hand was on his sword, ready to draw. Philip, with a cold face, slashed all of them with one blow. He frowned. "How dare you draw your sword against the sole heir of the Lacan family?" His words were full of murderous intent. "That means you're ready to trade your life, aren't you?" The other guy, terrified, could only raise both hands and surrender. He calmly sat and watched him tremble and admit, "I have committed a capital crime." Philip pressed his sword to his neck. "Shut up, you bastard. You dare harm the young master." He put his hand on his chin, surprised. "Oh," Lacan left a remark. "Not too bad." Philip struggled to carry the bag of money on his back. "Wow, this is quite heavy." He jumped around excitedly. "I think it must be more than 10,000 pesos." He walked ahead with his hands on his hips. "Of course." Suddenly he glanced behind him. He looked at the naive young man following behind. "This kid, I just thought he was a porter, but he's more talented than I thought." Philip was still cheerful. "Young master, wait for me." He rested his chin on his hand, calculating. "Anyway, today's income isn't bad, but after causing this chaos, it'll be hard to get into the casinos." He turned back and asked, "Is there any other place to earn money besides casinos?" He wiped the sweat from his forehead, thinking, "A place where I can earn a lot of money, huh?" An idea came to him. Then why not try the Gigant Arena? He wondered, a Gigant Arena. He proudly explained, "That's right, just like the old arenas where humans used to fight each other. Now, there are arenas where giants fight each other," he noted. "Depending on the match, the odds will be different. But if you play well, you can earn 30,000 pesos or even more." He folded his arms, pondering. "I used to be very interested in giants. If they are developed with golem magic, it might be useful in predicting who will win." He raised his hand confidently. "Just trust me, young master. I was once the top student at the Royal Gigant Military Academy." He agreed. "I understand. Just take me there first." He jumped up. "Young master trusts me even more." Suddenly, the two of them noticed a shout from this side. "You trash, I told you not to come here." The guards were forcefully kicking the person lying on the ground. "I told you to stay in your area. You'll only listen after you're dead, right?" "Oron," Philip lamented. "Oh heavens, treating a child like that." He just stood there saying nothing. 500 years? Although the world has changed, there are still things that haven't changed. The soldier was shouting loudly, "There are rotten things." The child was crying, holding its head. "And as time goes on, it rots even more." Lacan gritted his teeth. He opened his eyes wide, his face cold. "Hey, stop!" Suddenly, a shout echoed, drowning out his voice. "Stop right now!" The soldiers turned towards the source of the shout. "Who is it?" A girl stepped forward from behind to their astonishment. "Aren't you royal guards tasked with protecting the people?" the girl asked. "So why are you using violence against these children?" He stared at her, bewildered. "Only nobles are subjects." His eyes widened in amazement. She raised her voice. "These children also have the right to be protected." He remembered her former appearance. "Katerina," the two guards said, "even if it's a princess, it's useless. This is the countess's order. Do you know how restless everyone has become? Because the refugees left." Reina then said, "So locking up people like livestock in an unlivable place is right." Hearing these words, Simon was a little surprised. These innocent children have lost their country and family, and if they are truly guilty, I will be the first to punish them. Before becoming the Princess of Vonga, I was one of the refugees seeking shelter," she said with a look full of indignation. The soldier with a headache said, "Princess, if you continue, you will only cause more trouble. We don't want to do this either. We're doing this because it's the Countess's order." Philip pouted and said, "The situation is getting more tense. Will it be all right? Do you know who that is?" He smiled and replied, "Of course. She's also quite famous in the kingdom of Vonga. Even though she's a princess, she doesn't care at all about the gazes of the nobles. I don't know the reason, but I heard her kingdom has fallen. I didn't expect to meet Princess Serena here." Suddenly, Simon stammered, calling out, "Reina? No? No matter how I look at it, that's definitely Reina. She was reincarnated like me. But why does she still look the same?" The soldier suddenly rushed forward and grabbed Reina's hand, making her extremely frightened. "Princess Reina, please forgive me, but I can't let you do that. If this continues, we will be punished." Reina, startled, shouted, "What are you doing? Stop bothering us." "Look," the soldier ruthlessly pushed her down. Seaman stood by, witnessing. "Hey, get your filthy hands off her now." In an instant, he rushed forward with a cold expression, throwing a punch at the soldier. No matter how time passes and the world changes, Seaman continuously rained a flurry of punches on the soldier, teaching him a lesson for daring to touch his girl. The soldier, terrified, begged, "Stop." He, in a frenzy, continuously rained blows on him. "These bastards still, will never disappear." Reina quickly grabbed his arm to stop him, shouting, "Stop, please stop. There's no need to go that far." Seaman, after a fit of rage, finally stopped. "Katari!" Suddenly, the soldier drew his sword, intending to slash at Seaman's group. "You dare attack a guard? It seems you're not afraid of royal law." Philip then stood up with a somber face and said, "That royal law thing is more important than human lives." At this moment, he was holding his sword to the soldier's neck. "You bastard, you will pay the price. This isn't the time to go to the gigant arena. Run now before things get worse." At this moment, Simon seemed to realize something about the girl he loved. He quickly ran up and called her name loudly, "Reina, are you all right? I'm sorry. I lost control for a bit. I should have helped you sooner." Katerina just turned her head and said, I'm sorry. "But who are you?" Simon, confused, approached and asked, What do you mean?" Reina, frightened, stepped back. "Don't come near me." "Right. It seems because I look a bit different you don't recognize me, right? I'll tell you everything." Reina quickly refused. "No need. How are you any different from those child-abusing guards, Reina, that, more importantly, it seems you've mistaken me for someone else. My name is not Katerina. I am Reina." Seaman heard this and stood frozen. Philip, seeing the situation was a bit off, quickly ran up and said, "Good heavens, it seems my young master has misunderstood a bit. Princess, we are not suspicious people. The thing is, he's having some difficulties. It seems he has mistaken someone. It would be great if you would please." At this moment, Seaman seemed to be immersed in sorrowful thoughts. I have endured loneliness for a very, very long time, knowing she would never be able to return. I became so broken like this just because they look alike. Suddenly, at this moment, a man called out loudly, "Princess, what are you doing here?" He panted as he spoke. "I told you, you have a very important schedule today. Do you know how hard I had to look for you, Raina's butler Victor?" "Oh, Victor! The thing is, don't tell me you went and caused trouble with the guards again." That Butler Victor calmed down and then with a serious face asked, "But who are these people? This is the first time we've met. Please excuse me, but due to some matters, the situation is quite tense. It would be best if you two don't get too close to the princess." Seaman suddenly burst out laughing and said, "Foolish. Although it's true I misunderstood and escalated the situation, but in the end, didn't I also help her? I don't expect any reward, but at least you should thank me, right?" Princess Reina heard this and was a bit confused. "Let's go, Philip. All right?" Then he and Philip turned around and left in one go. Butler Victor said to Reina, "Let's go." All right? Thinking back, it's true. I still haven't thanked him. Gigant Arena. The two MCs were talking nonstop. No Gigant wants to give up in this tense battle. Now everyone please remain calm. Oh, things are getting interesting now. He quickly blocked the attack, but Seaman just said sadly, "It's over." Bang. Below the stage, two Gigants were relentlessly attacking each other. One Gigant at a disadvantage fell. Everyone around the stands cheered. And the finishing blow, Adolf has won. Philip happily approached talking and laughing with Simon. "Young master, you did it again. At this rate, we'll quickly be out of debt and rich." Seaman's eyes immediately lit up thinking, just this much is simple. Because Gigants only rely on the magic power of golems, I can easily predict the winner by looking at the mana flow. This match looks bloody. Next Savage will fight Sting. Philip quickly said to him, "I can also predict the result of the next match." How can Sting with 1 win and 5 losses beat Savage with 28 wins and 2 losses? He then replied, "Although there's a possibility of an upset, this match is completely predictable." Ladies and gentlemen, take a good look at that pair of super gigant axes. They have never spared any gigant. Savage twin axes. Savage pilot Brian. Their opponent is the one who miraculously won the previous match. Seaman seemed surprised by this gigant. Sting the Lukiki gigant? Phew. How pitiful. He just Luke Killy won, and now he has to face Savage. Sting pilot Karen. Suddenly, Seaman unexpectedly spoke. Philip bet everything on Sting. Philip heard this startled and asked back, "Sting? I wonder?" The winner this time will be someone else. The match just started and the two gigants rushed to fight each other. What's going on? Sting is putting on a surprising performance. Shattering everyone's expectations of a painful defeat, he's blocking all of Savage's attacks. I thought you were just an amateur, but who knew you also had those skills? However, it's still not enough to satisfy me. Saying that the two large gigants continuously attacked fighting in the most ruthless way to the opponent. Philip, seeing the unstable situation, wailed and cried, "You can't lose, Sting." But Seaman was intently analyzing. Sting has the mana advantage. It's just what is he thinking? Why isn't he using mana? The gigant Savage arrogantly laughed loudly. "Give up, your little mouse feet are still tied. If you can't fight anymore, then I'll destroy you even more." Saying that, it raised its two axes high, preparing for a finishing attack. Philip held his head, crying and worrying. What should we do? We're going to lose all the money we bet. Savage then threw the two axes towards Sting. In an instant, Sting suddenly flared with spirit, immediately standing up, dodging Stavis's attack. White smoke billowed. Sting had disappeared. Did you know you can adjust your bets in gigant matches? Until the last 30 seconds of the match. Ajiway. And now that time has passed. I can't afford to compensate. Great fire explosion. Sting opened a magic fire barrier, spewing blazing fire towards Savage. How is this possible? We have an unprecedented event happening here today. Our champion, you've overcome 20-to-1 odds with attribute skills. His name is Sting. The arrogant Satap is now dust in Sting's hands. Philip was overjoyed amidst tears. We won. I really can't believe it. But Seaman was a little surprised. He used magic. Really unbelievable. Philip, seeing him look confused, asked, "What's wrong?" Knight Sting Karen must be a rune knight. Isn't it quite normal to see Gigant using magic? He probably hid his strength to increase his chances. No, that's not important. The basic theory behind using magic through weapons is something I developed, and that method, no matter how much time passes, cannot be copied by others. That's because I completed that process by using dark magic. Arena. Philip walked still, pestering with questions. Why do you want to go to Hangar so badly? Shouldn't we go back as soon as possible? Simon, annoyed, angrily shouted, "Be quiet." He sighed and said, I'm busy thinking, and you're not helping at all. Suddenly, at this moment, they saw Butler Victor and Princess Reina. You can still change your mind. How could you agree to a gigant match like this? You shouldn't have accepted that battle from the beginning, Reina replied, but a mercenary like Andre will have no trouble riding an MIR to fight the Countess's gigant. Those people, Philip poked his head in and said, we meet Princess Reina again. It seems they're having some problems. Huh. Victor and Reina were arguing nonstop. Princess, why did you agree to a match like that? You'll have to marry the Count if you lose. This is no small matter. But Reina said resentfully, I chose very carefully. If I don't do, the countless refugees will starve to death. To save everyone, this is the only way. The butler then advised her to reconsider. Impossible. How could sacrificing your future be a viable option? With a gigant that's falling apart, you're sure to lose. You want to protect the refugees, but what about your life? Why don't you find a way to protect your life like that? Seaman heard this, but didn't care, and quickly pulled Philip away. Let's go, Philip. Young master. I'm done. Let's go back. All right. He lightly stepped past the other gigant. As he walked, he mumbled, right, she's not Katarin. I don't need to get too involved. Suddenly, a voice came from nowhere. That's right. You're selling yourself. Princess, the Count is someone who never gives up anything to get what he wants. He has threatened many refugees before. Without the princess, the refugees will truly be at a disadvantage. And if you don't change the Mana Stone at all, this gigant won't even be able to operate. Even so, the difference in its technical specifications and the Count's gigant is too great to fight. You should listen to the butler. I know that very well, but I can't give up. If I lose without trying. At this moment, Reina trembled with anger because her words had no effect on them. She sobbed resentfully, saying, Then, who will stand up for the weak? Suddenly, Simon approached and said, Then can I take a look? Reina, hearing the familiar voice, quickly turned her head. That Mana Stone and this gigant, I think they can still be used. Count Victor suddenly drew his sword and rushed forward to shield Reina, saying, Stay back, princess. This is too coincidental to be considered random. They might be assassins sent by the Count. Philip, seeing the old man put on airs, laughed gleefully and said, Hey, you really are troublesome? Please put away your sword. This is Luc de Lacan, the 15th descendant of the Lacan family and the current lord. But Butler Victor didn't believe it and just pointed his sword, the heroic Lacan family. How can we believe that? Victor calmed down. Princess Reina quickly went up and said, I apologize for our previous meeting. It seems you've heard about our current situation. I'm quite embarrassed to admit it, but we have no other choice. If possible, I'd like to ask another favor of you. I beg you. Seaman gently stroked the small bell in his hand and replied, All right, to ensure I'm not mistaken, this time, I will demonstrate my skills. The red-haired man sighed and complained, Princess, not everyone can repair a gigant. There's a reason experts are called steel mages. Will he damage the gigant further? Those damn nobles with their big egos often think they know everything. Philip heard this, quickly ran over, held the heads of the two repairmen, and frowned, saying, So do you two want to bet with me? I bet 10 million pesos that our young master can easily handle the gigant, which you two bastards can't fix. What? Should we accept that offer? You don't want to afraid. What are you saying? Afraid I'll double the bet? Young Philip, may I ask you a question? Of course, princess. A tool like that, can it repair a gigant? Philip heard this, looked back at the small knife on Seaman, and was also surprised. Seaman suddenly slashed once. Young! Philip shouted, Young, master? Be quiet, Philip. Just watch. He's... Seaman used the blood from his palm to awaken the gigant. Right at this moment. Revive. At the dark castle, at this moment, a man was approaching. He walked, breathing in the cold. Step by step, he moved forward. Suddenly, he stopped. Did you really fall in a place like this? You are immortal creatures, those who lead your enemies to hell. Answer my summons once more. Saying that, he planted the staff in his hand on the ground, opening a dark magic formation, summoning ferocious stone monsters. On Seaman's side, the gigant finally flashed its eyes open. As expected from the young master, I trusted you. That's impossible. Princess Reina and Count Victor, surprised, said, He really did it. Is MIR operating again? How is that possible? I can't believe he could revive a dead mana stone. I've never heard of such magic existing in my entire life. The continent will, no, the entire world will be astonished by this historical event. Philip then went to congratulate him. Young master, there's truly nothing you can't do. I'll believe you even if you say you can create a golem from stones. The red-haired man, unconvinced, criticized Simon. That's impossible. There must be some trick. Drawing a magic circle with blood and activating it immediately looks like dark magic, right? I can't acknowledge that. Philip angrily turned his head back and asked, You dare declare the sole heir of Lacan uses dark magic. No matter how you look at it, that is, all right, I'll explain. The truth is, Seaman then spoke up to explain this is a secret technique passed down from the Lacan family kept hidden for nearly 500 years. The red-haired man heard this surprised and asked back, a family secret technique? What swordsman family has a magic secret technique like this? Princess Reina then spoke up, that's not important right now. Even if it's dark magic, you've saved countless lives. I don't know how to repay you. Thank you very much. I also want to apologize for what happened last time. Seaman forced a smile and replied, well, it's all right. It's not surprising you misunderstood. At this moment, she considerately took a handkerchief to wipe the blood from his palm. No, you were injured because of me, so at least let me take care of you. Seaman's expression softened as he replied, if that makes you feel at ease, go ahead. Suddenly, a man ran quickly shouting, there's a big problem. What's wrong? Why are you shouting so loudly here? He's gone. The other guy shouted loudly. He's not in the waiting room, and I've searched everywhere in the inn. But I can't find Knight Andre anywhere. We will succeed in recruiting Andre, so now the princess has no knights left to use. It seems they've successfully repaired their gigant. Didn't you say their gigant couldn't be activated? That's right, but recently, I'm sorry. I hate apologies the most. It means you made a mistake. Please, give me another chance. I'm sure. Get lost. You're fired. The lord of the Lamer territory, Count Monache. The irritable count shouted, I've lost my appetite. Is there nothing else? The chef quickly waved his hand and replied, no, sir. Count Monache glared and said, there can't be even a small possibility until Princess Reina completely belongs to me. Soon, everyone will know what kind of person the master of Monache is, right? So then, last but not least, we have the two MCs were now announcing the next match. Princess Reina's MIR versus Achilles. This is the champion of the Lamer territory. With 78 wins and not a single loss, let's see what MIR has prepared to face this undefeated champion. This is an incredibly thrilling match. However, MIR is nowhere to be found in the arena. Did they forfeit the final match? The audience in the stands suddenly became agitated. Hey, are you scared and running away? Hey, give us back our money. The cunning count smirked. Did you forfeit because you have no knights? That's why Princess Reina should have accepted my proposal from the beginning. I'll show you the consequences of hurting my pride. Where did Andre go? I can't find him anywhere. It seems Count Monache has tricked us. Butler Victor quickly said, Andre is a loyal subordinate. Are you saying he betrayed us? Someone saw him enter the Count's camp. Damn it. Even without Andre being kidnapped, there's still a power difference between our giants. I can't believe he's so cowardly. This isn't just about crushing us with strength. Reina heard this and trembled all over. Seaman then spoke up. If you can't participate, then you'll be forced to marry him, right? Da. If it's not too much trouble, I think I can help you with this. Reina hesitated and asked him, how will you do that? Lord Luke? Philip approached and advised, young master, it's not that I don't trust you, but have you forgotten the accident that happened last time when you tried to pilot a gigant? Don't worry. Piloting a gigant is simply, we thought MIR had forfeited the match, but here it is. He entered the arena just in time. He didn't run away even when facing the undefeated Achilles. On Count Monache's side, he was now sipping wine. Didn't you say the princess had no knights left? The subordinate, terrified, replied, I'm sure there are no knights left. He gritted his teeth and said, so the princess hired mercenaries impossible. I'm sure he doesn't realize the importance of this match, but there's someone foolish enough to side with the princess in my territory. Princess and Butler Victor were standing in the stands cheering for Seaman. Lord Victor, so what about the match? We're not late. Luke Achille, we made it in time. Relieved. But is this really all right? At first glance, the difference in the gigant's performance is very large, but the opposing knight is also the champion of the Lamer territory. Seaman approached from behind and said, everything will be fine. Oh, Lord Luke, although he usually seems quite naive. But that man has no ordinary skills, young master. Why did you do that to me? Gigant MIR, whom we all predicted would forfeit, arrived just in time. However, as we can see, the difference in technical specifications is quite clear, especially when facing his old opponent, the undefeated champion Achilles. The stand, seeing the image of Princess Reina's gigant entering the battle, broke out in a cold sweat and said, that gigant, are they really going to fight? One of them smirked loudly. Unbelievable, shouldn't they run? Calling that piece of trash a gigant, can it even move? The Lamer gigant then spoke in a mocking tone, I praise you for not running away. However, you must also know how this match will turn out. I don't intend to go easy on you. Gigant MIR replied without any hesitation, let's just do it and see. All right. just put that confidence aside, saying that he came closer, then rushed forward, swinging his axe towards MIR in challenge. Let's get to the test. At this moment, inside the gigant, Philip was constantly worrying. As expected, his strength is just like his size. But the two gigants continuously wounded each other. It's not just about being big and strong. That makes a good warrior. Swish. The lamer gigant slashed once. MIR immediately dodged. He's fast too. Lamer then launched a powerful attack towards MIR. You dodged the attack. It seems your confidence is baseless. Too dangerous. Philip inside the gigant was sweating profusely with fear. This is really bad. That pilot is at least a veteran knight. Attack, attack, more. Achilles continued to unleash a series of punches. Towards MIR? Damn it, MIR successfully dodged all the direct attacks. I thought the match would end soon, but MIR hasn't been hit once. In the stands, Count Victor kept standing up and sitting down. Damn, just running away like that won't win. Victor. Reyna quickly reassured him. Don't worry. Luke said Philip is a strong knight. Just trust him. I heard that. He has faced countless other knights, so he's definitely a good knight. However, hey, come here. Wait a minute. You need more training. What is he doing? At this moment, Philip was running for his life. Damn, isn't this guy tired? If that's the case, oh, what about a sneak attack? Unexpectedly, he piloted the gigant to sneak attack him from behind. Oh, it hit. The lamer gigant, now interested, said, So, you finally want to fight for real? Well, not really. I'll also go all out. The two MCs talked non-stop to add drama to the match. Here it is, the champion's finishing blow. Will MIR be able to dodge it this time? Well, I'm definitely dead. Suddenly a loud explosion shook the heavens. MIR, under the powerful attack from Lamer, was able to dodge that vicious blow in an instant. Unbelievable. You're not far enough to dodge that blow. Uncle Rogers will kill me if he finds out. But what else can I do? I have to win, because the young master has placed his hopes on me. Philip then smugly pointed and said, You'll regret this moment for the rest of your life for making me unleash all my power. The lamer gigant chuckled foolishly. At such a young age and already has an aura like that, I can feel it from the movements. It seems I've finally met a worthy opponent. What the hell are you doing, Count? Struggling with that piece of trash? Are you crazy? You know the consequences if you lose, right? I apologize for disappointing you. From now on, I will show you a performance as requested, to make the match fair. Another day then. Saying that he continued to charge forward. Philip after a while regained his confidence and said, Sorry, I'm very busy. I can't accept any more matches. As soon as he finished speaking, he resolutely piloted the gigant to attack in retaliation. It's gone. What? At this moment, MIR was nowhere to be seen, making him confused. This aura and speed, could it be? The bank remembers, now he disappeared 3 years ago. The undefeated legend of the Gigant Arena, the demon sword of the Black Knight. MIR at this moment no longer weakly ran away, but used his lightning-fast speed to dash past and sever the other Gigant. On the MC's side, they suddenly shouted in surprise, Wonderful! An unforeseen event has occurred. Achilles can no longer operate in the blink of an eye. The winner is, MIR, the unexpected underdog. The entire stands cheered loudly for MIR. MIR, MIR, MIR. Well done, MIR. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect to meet the Black Knight here again. You know me? I fought you at the Royal Arena 3 years ago. You disappeared after setting a record. Why are you here? Well, I'm the Black Knight. Helping people is normal, right? Ha, that's right too. I'm sorry, but can you keep it a secret that I'm the Black Knight, all right? Anyway, I was fired. Damn sorry. Count Victor witnessed the fierce battle and immediately covered his face, sobbing. Princess, we won. Reyna quickly comforted him. Victor, why are you crying at such a joyous event? Seaman just pondered. Look, this will be fine. Anyway, I can finally leave here with a light heart. Seaman, having just finished the match, immediately turned and left. No matter how many times, gambling is also a flow. He smiled, standing before the large casino. MIR's odds are 21-1. I bet all 10,000 pesos I've gotten so far. It truly is a world that will make money. Lamer territory total income statue sale, 3,000 pesos. Gambling 3,000 x2 Wokrachir 6,000 pesos, collected from the gigant match, plus 4,000 pesos. Final total income 10,000 pesos x21. Luke de Lacan total earnings 210,000 pesos. The sky today is clear and blue. The air fresh and cool. Perhaps it's time for us to leave. We can't thank you. Enough for everything you've done. Simone quickly responded to her kindness. There's no need to worry about that. All we did was help within our capabilities. Princess Reina, blushing slightly, said, but helping us like this must have been very difficult. We wish we could express our gratitude appropriately. Seaman just gently replied, it's all right. I think everyone has given us enough. If we hadn't met you, we would never have earned this much. To be honest, I really want to stay here longer. However, since we've caused such a big scene, I think it's better for us to leave before my identity is exposed. Reina, with a slightly sad expression, said, oh, now I finally understand the overall picture. I hope I haven't complicated things for you. There's no need to worry about us. However, I think it's better if you leave this area as soon as possible. At this moment, on Count Monaki's side, he angrily said, if he's ready to do such things, he won't give up so easily. There's a possibility he's planning his next move. As he spoke, the Count stepped on the defeated knight's face. Butler Victor approached, bowed his head, and said, that's right, Princess, we need to leave. While Count Monarchy has no reason to keep us here anymore. Simon then spoke up. I understand you're worried about the refugees, but even if you stay here, you can't do anything to help all of them. To have a better future, I think it would be wiser if the princess took a step back at this moment and... I've woken up. She gently stroked her platinum blonde hair, tilted her head, and said, however, for me that will be difficult. Even though I seem stubborn and foolish right now, but I can't abandon my people without anyone to rely on, even if it's just for a little while. I want to help as many of them as possible. These words made Simon dazed. He smiled in reply. I understand. Please stay safe. I hope you will also return safely from your trip. Thank you. I look forward to the day we meet again, because you've solved such a big problem. Then Simon and Philip boarded the ship to return. All that's left is to return home and be bestowed the title of hero. Philip turned his head to look at the two gigant repairmen and said, but why bring those fools along? You should have tricked them out of their money. Didn't you say there are no gigant mages in our territory? Why do we have to wait like that? You agreed to it? Well, actually, we don't have any right now. How can we use a gigant without anyone to repair it? Philip wondered, can't you repair it yourself? Young master? Seaman suddenly sighed, turned his head back and explained, you fool. Do you know how to restore and repair a mana stone yourself? There's a reason why you're still at the bottom of the chain of command. Shut up and protect our goods. The young master is so cruel. Why did you come here to collect our belongings? At the Delacan estate, I thought we still had time. Thank you for mentioning that. You said you'd pay off such a large debt, and I believed you. But you betrayed your own people and ran away in the middle of the night. Darren was constantly ordering the soldiers to carry out all the belongings from Seaman's castle. Why should I wait? At this moment, Philip suddenly appeared behind him. Darren, startled, turned back and shouted, you startled me. What's wrong? My name is Philip. I am the young master's knight protector. Knight protector. But why are you here alone? Where is the young master? Actually, I came to deliver something. Impossible. Philip then brought a chest full of gold to the greedy Darren. He was surprised, unable to believe his eyes. It hasn't even been a week, and he's already earned over 30,000 pesos. Master, is that all right? Does that mean I can't take over his territory anymore? Philip then shouted, you fool. Don't you see Lord Darren is busy? Hurry up and load 30,000 pesos onto his carriage before wasting another second of his time. All right. Count Darren then changed his attitude and said, now that I think about it, there's no need to rush. That's right. I'll wait to receive it directly from the young master. Philip heard this and chuckled foolishly. Then he presented a long handwritten letter, reading aloud. I guess you're planning your next move, Darren Da'a. This is a message from the young master to you, Lord Darren. He heard it and just asked, what? Now that we've paid off all our debts, you're now considered a trespasser. If you intend to cause trouble here, I advise you to prepare. According to Article 36, Section 34 of the Royal Noble Law, nobles whose territories or constructions under their management are trespassed upon will have the right to execute the trespasser. Unless you want to be split in two, then I advise you to turn back right now. End. That is the young master's message. He also said, I'll give you 3 seconds. That is his final message. Darren heard this with a panicked expression. In an instant, he had already climbed onto his carriage and fled. You'll regret this, Philip said smugly. At least those people know the young master is very scary. I'm fully aware of that, Philip. Everyone, you can rejoice now. The young master and I have finally... At the peak of his emotions, he turned his head and was suddenly met with a sight. The sergeant, the accountant, and butler Hans all rushed over to question him. Philip, how dare you sell Lord de Lacan's statue? You fool, I won't let you get away with this. And the young master? Where is he? Don't tell me something happened to him. Philip, frightened, quickly said, Could you give me some time? The sergeant ignored his words quickly, grabbed his shirt, and questioned him. Don't make excuses anymore. Answer my question. Philip stammered. All right, young master. Quack. Demon King's Tower. At this moment, Seaman pushed open the door and entered the Demon King's Tower. This place is a real mess. It's probably easy to understand why. There's no way they could have taken good care of this place. Well, I think I should be thankful that it's still standing after 500 years. Suddenly he discovered something. This place? Roy remembered the happy moments with Katerina. It's the last place that holds my memories of Katerina. No matter what happens, I will protect this place. However, this is what's important. He touched everything around him with his hand as if touching the beautiful memories between the two of them. Suddenly a stream of dark magic appeared. The door creaked open. I hope this still works. I wrote this thanks to the talent of the dwarves. Even after 500 years, it works perfectly. Now then, should I take back what originally belonged to me? Lacan held a blue flame torch and descended the stairs the best way to break the curse. He replied, it's to obtain an amount of mana even stronger than the curse. He stopped in front of the door. Well, this curse is very old, but right now this is the only solution. He used his power. The door slowly creaked open. It gradually opened wider. He looked into the cold room inside. The last time I was here was 5 centuries ago. He exclaimed, the house is really well protected. Inside there was a glass jar containing a blazing red stone. He smiled. I prefer a quieter space like this now. Long time no see. He said to the stone, Demon Howarth. 5 centuries ago in the demon's territory, on a full moon night, a conflict occurred at a castle. Someone used their power to fight monsters. Seaman's face was cold, death bullet. Immediately the monsters on both sides exploded. After dealing with it, he gently withdrew his hand. He glanced at the person in front of him and asked, you are the ruler of this place. The person in front yawned, their slender fingers lightly covering their mouth. That person was the archdemon Horath. She calmly assessed, I heard you've conquered a few strongholds. I thought it was some old level 8 geezer. She sat on the throne showing her attitude. But you're too young, I'm a bit disappointed. She dejectedly waved her hand. Anyway, a human like you is also interesting. I'm very moved, so I'll forgive you. He dejectedly listened to her command. Just ask me anything. She chuckled mockingly. I'll just satisfy your curiosity before you leave. Seaman looked down. You're the most talkative archdemon I've ever met. He pointed directly at her and sighed. The higher the demon's level, the more they talk, huh? She stood up straight, annoyed. You fool, I showed you mercy, yet you refused. She referred to the 2 demons guarding her. You're arrogant just because you defeated a few low-level demons. I'll show you the demons here. They all held weapons ready completely different from the ones you've encountered. Seaman replied, Don't worry. He smiled smugly. I'm not crazy enough to enter the battlefield alone. As he finished speaking, a stone monster broke through the wall from behind and stepped out. She wondered Golem. The man who had entered the monster began to rush at each other. He used his strength to easily deal with the monsters. She also gently stepped on the golems under her feet. In the end, only the 2 of them were left facing each other. He frowned and looked. She also glanced down Dagex. Right there, an explosion occurred, spreading fire everywhere. Right there, an explosion occurred, spreading fire everywhere. The floor was now littered with the corpses of golems and monsters. Horath was now being choked and held high by Seaman. She asked him, What do you intend to turn me into mana for? She trembled, grabbed his wrist and forced a smile. Want to change the world or something? He was cold. You don't need to know. He turned her into a blazing redstone, rebirth as Mana Horath. Returning to reality, Lacan picked up the glass jar to examine it. The entire process of defeating her was several times harder than the others. He reached out to open the jar's lid. If mana is absorbed incorrectly, one can go mad. He held the stone and smiled hesitantly. I've seen people turn into hideous creatures because of this. He opened his mouth and brought the stone closer. At that time, I still couldn't absorb it, but when I learned the correct way to safely absorb mana, he chewed the stone in his mouth. He had already reached level 9 and no longer needed it. He looked up at the sky. I didn't expect to need it again 5 centuries later. Suddenly, he clenched his teeth, his whole body covered in sweat. He clutched his face, staggered, and screamed, The scenery changed. He was standing in a different place. Lacan's eyes widened in astonishment. He looked at the thick dust and smoke in front. This is the realm of the mind. He looked at his hand and sighed. It seems I haven't been devoured by mana. Suddenly he noticed something. In front, a girl was sitting with her back to him. The girl slowly turned her face, her cold eyes looking at him. One question from her caused a whirlwind to rise. Who are you? He clenched his teeth, struggling a bit, finding it hard to endure with his current body. He looked at the grown Horath in front of him. It's been 500 years, she still has so much mana. He opened his mouth to make a suggestion. Still holding on, huh? I'm here to borrow. Her eyes were filled with rage and killing intent. You are... She lunged, grabbed his neck tightly, and pinned him to the ground. What's your weak now? She sneered. I almost didn't recognize you. So why are you here, huh? He forced a smile. I told you I need to borrow your container. She laughed. Uh-huh, is that so? She looked down at him with disdain. But are you sure that with this weak body? She growled. Can it still be used? Horeth used her strength to choke him while pinning him down, saying, The enemy who imprisoned me for centuries. Seeing him struggle, she curled her lip in a disdainful smile, pathetically crawling all the way here craving my power. Horeth looked at Lacan with a sinister expression, her hand not leaving his neck, her whole body pressing down on him as she asked, Interesting, isn't it? He clenched her hand, using his strength to resist, worriedly thinking, She's going to crush my neck. Then as if another thought crossed his mind, but he suddenly smiled and asked her back, Are you okay? He let go and didn't hold on anymore. Hearing that Horeth looked puzzled, not knowing what he was trying to say, Lacan forced a smile, pretending to be calm. What I came to make you an offer, and you're just going to kill me like this. As he spoke, he thought to himself, She wants to use my body as a mana source so she won't harm me. Hearing that, I felt interested and tilted my head to one side. An offer. Then she decided to let go of his small neck. As he quickly sat up, struggling to catch his breath and coughing a few times, Horeth cheerfully shrugged. At least I'll acknowledge your courage. As she finished speaking, she gave a wicked smile, staring intently at him as her eyes began to glow brightly. Now then. Horeth recalled the moment Lacan clutched his chest in pain and continued, Your magic circle is broken. Can you withstand my power? Seeing this, he tried to gain her trust. If I can't do it, then just take my body, you. The one imprisoned here for centuries has nothing to lose. I wonder, she tilted her head, is there a simpler solution? Thinking of this, she suddenly raised her hand and flicked. Dark red streams of demonic energy like barbed wire pierced straight into Lacan's hands and feet. Horeth transformed into a gigant and laughed loudly, suspending Lacan in the air like a toy. I'll play with you for the amount of time I've been imprisoned here. Shouldn't you at least be able to endure this much? He looked at the streams of demonic energy, thinking in pain. Mind control. My body. Seeing Lacan not paying attention, she wondered, Still have time to think. As she spoke, she cast a spell causing him to scream in pain as if electrocuted. Seeing Lacan bow his head, Horeth laughed gloatingly and mocked, defeated by mind magic. Where has all your pride gone? Seeing her smug, he smiled and said, You're still as noisy as ever. Horeth looked at him, frowning in annoyance. Are you all talk? Do you think you still possess the same amount of mana and magic circle as in the past? Hearing that, Lacan immediately spoke up. Even though I've become powerless with my broken magic circle, Horeth frowned, surprised and confused. He disappeared. She was astonished and waved her hand, searching. He disappeared. As Lacan transformed into his large, true form from his previous life, Seaman smiled, exuding an imposing aura, and extended his hand towards Horeth. I who have reached the 9th magic circle with dark magic will never fall to this kind of mind control magic. With that said, he brought his hand close, wanting to crush her. Horeth was so astonished she couldn't react in time and was crushed in Seaman's palm. The body and her mind exploded, forcing Horeth to return to reality with a mix of fear and excitement. Horeth watched as Lacan calmly sat to one side, smiled, and walked over. I knew it. I pat his head, looking at him in acknowledgement. You truly are interesting, but I never expected you could actually reach the 9th magic circle. Lacan smirked and turned to ask, What, don't believe it, want to play some more? She shook her head. Enough. What I mean is, even if you've reached that level, you still can't change the world. He stood up and retorted, No, it's not over yet. Lacan looked at Horeth and said with a firm voice, I will definitely change the world. Hearing that, I smiled lightly, revealing my canine tooth. I wonder how much of my power you can utilize. Horeth slowly approached Lacan, probing. But if it's you, the one who has reached the 9th circle, then perhaps... He nodded. Of course. She moved closer, put her arm around Lacan's neck, and smiled with satisfaction. Confident. Right. Even if I take over your body, the 6th or 7th circle is my limit. Horeth frowned in compromise. I'll let you crush the world. With that, she leaned close to Lacan, releasing her demonic energy to merge with his body. He looked at Horeth and smiled. I guess I'll have to try really hard not to disappoint you. Hearing that, I looked up and replied, Of course. Before disappearing, I didn't forget to remind, this time, you're not allowed to fail. A while later, Lacan was in a room intently drawing a magic circle on the table. After he finished drawing, he panted heavily, silently, pondering something. Then Lacan extended his hand to test his mana, shouting dark fire. The mana flowed out successfully. As he watched, he muttered, "It seems I've only reached the third circle. But having a foundation like this is more than enough. Perhaps the mana has been purified, so its color looks a bit different than before." Lacan looked at the magic circle on his hand and thought to himself, "Anyway, if Horath wanted to, she could have taken over my body. I must meet her expectations." As he went deeper inside, he thought, "I already know the theory and enlightenment of each circle, so reaching the ninth circle will be easy." As if searching for something, he went deeper inside, lifting each curtain one by one. However, gathering mana to reach the ninth circle would take a lot of time. Lacan touched the final wall of the room and activated the magic mechanism, thinking, "So I must act immediately." The mechanism was successfully activated and transformed into a large, heavy stone door. When he opened the door, a hazy smoke billowed out. He looked inside for a moment, then snails entered. He walked to the center of the large circle and said, "You've rested for 500 years, get up and work quickly." After that, Lacan slammed his hand down hard, causing the ground to crack. From his palm, a large purple magic circle with many characters appeared. After a few minutes, he looked up in one direction and said, "Now." Lacan looked towards the golem monsters just summoned by the magic circle and commanded, "You will have to help me." At this time, inside the magnificent mansion in the Lamer territory of Count Monarch, a man was being brutally beaten. Count Monarch sat at the table annoyed watching the man being punished and asked, "Milan, have you realized your mistake yet?" He stammered in fear, I'm sorry, sir. Please forgive my failure." He was not satisfied with Milan's answer. "Failure. You think it's just because of that match." Monarch looked at him and continued, "No matter how you think about it, it's very strange." The young man looked up puzzled. "Huh, what do you mean, sir?" He frowned in annoyance, clenching his fists. "Even though the power gap was 5 times, you still lost. Wouldn't anyone looking at it say you secretly colluded with Reina?" Milan, terrified, shouted his explanation, "I swore loyalty. I would never do that. I swear on my honor as a knight that I would never do such a thing." Monarch looked at him and sneered, "The honor of a knight, you—" At this moment, the remaining subordinate had already raised his sword. With just one command, Milan's head would be severed. He continued, "Is that all you can say?" He hurriedly said, I know a few things about the one who piloted that gigant." Milan quickly recounted, 3 years ago I faced them at the Royal Gigant Arena. They are very famous for being undefeated knights." Hearing this, Monarch immediately asked, "So who did they team up with?" The young man, frightened, dodged the sword blade and replied, "After that, they left. So no one knows their identities anymore." Not hearing the main content, he frowned. "Understood." Pausing for a moment, he continued, "Then you're useless." To Milan's astonishment upon hearing their master's words, the 3 subordinates behind him drew their swords. Milan, terrified, begged, "I will find him, sir. Please spare me." Without letting him babble any longer, the subordinates took action, sending Milan to get his lunchbox idiom for being killed. His blood splattered onto the door. When the lackey saw Monarch step out, he announced, "The princess has stayed in Le Maire." This made him wonder, why? The old man guessed, "It seems it's because of the refugees, sir." Hearing this, he also felt annoyed and exclaimed, "Understood. Continue to monitor her every move." Monarch leaned against the railing looking down at the courtyard and continued, "And another thing." He looked at the giant soldiers lining up and ordered the old man, "Go find the one who controlled MIR." Monarch, furious veins popping on his face, clenched his fists resolutely. "Find him at all costs." He stared intently at the giants again and continued, "I must see him with my own eyes to see if he will obstruct my plans." The scene before him was poetic and romantic. Lacan's voice rang out, narrating, from ancient times the Lacan family prospered thanks to the river flowing through and the fertile lands around. Even so, as time passed, most of the people left, leaving behind many deserted houses. He stood on a cliff, continuing in a low voice. There were 3 villages on the brink of becoming ghost towns. Suddenly, Lacan turned his head back and asked, "What do you think about this matter?" In his hand was a sharp sword that made the accountant Dixon terrified. His whole body trembled as he replied, "Young master." He immediately swung the sword forcefully, making the man's face turn even paler. "Why are you doing this?" Sir Lacan paid little attention to Dixon's question and just coldly said, "Are you pretending to be stupid? Isn't it because this problem is your fault?" He was so frightened that tears welled up in his eyes. His face pale as a sheet hurriedly replied, I really tried my best. I'm serious. Lacan then raised his sword high and asked in a stern voice, Did you try your best? This made Dixon panic, and he could only cry and beg. With an amused tone, he told Dixon, I really want to hang you in the middle of the square as an example, but the more I look at your background, the more interesting I find you. Lacan continued, You are a talented person recognized by the entire empire. Dixon, hearing these words, didn't understand anything but still had to kneel and listen. Fortunately for him, Lacan had retracted the sharp sword and explained the reason, but instead, you refused offers from other territories and chose to come here. This made Dixon extremely grateful. I am truly thankful. He calmly recounted, I requested the financial records for the past 10 years to see how you did it, and you truly brought me everything within a day without any errors. Lacan didn't forget to give some special compliments to the Lacan family's accountant. You are indeed useful. These words soothed his fragile soul, making Dixon show clear signs of delight. Taking this opportunity, Dixon quickly boasted, I'm very good at calculations. Well, if I were to show off. Even with his hands tied tightly and kneeling on the ground, it couldn't stop his smugness. I can solve all the math problems in my head. Hearing this, Lacan immediately replied, That's precisely the problem. Seeing that Lacan seemed to have calmed down, he boldly asked, Excuse me. But in response to Dixon's anticipation, Lacan said nothing, and quick as lightning lunged and grabbed his collar. Then without mercy, he flung the accountant Dixon into the abyss. When Lacan tied his hands tightly and threw him down, he rolled like a ball, constantly screaming in fear. Soon a loud thud echoed earth-shattering. It was him being thrown down. Now Luke Killy, alive, the scrawny man, was begging and kowtowing. Why? Dixon looked up and asked Lacan, Why did you do that again? But what struck him was a desolate, ruined village scene. This sight made Dixon exclaim in surprise, This place is… The image of a thin, sickly child begging for food became clear, confusing him. Are these people really residents of the Viscount's domain? Dixon couldn't believe his eyes, his mind in turmoil. Impossible? When I calculated the average, there shouldn't be slums like this. At this moment, Lacan calmly spoke up. How does it feel to actually see the village with your own eyes? For a moment, he didn't know how to answer and just replied, Yes, sir. The scene here was like a famine with both the elderly and young children facing extreme hardship. Lacan continued in a stern voice, You can't just summarize human life with numbers. You need to spend time with them and find out for yourself why the Viscount's domain has fallen into this state. He suddenly gave Dixon a sharp look and ordered, If you don't find out the reason, you will no longer work for us. Hearing this, Dixon became worried, sweat pouring down his face. Will you fire me, sir? In response to his question, Lacan gave a gentle smile and said, Do you want to quit right now? These words seemed to give him strength. Without hesitation, he rushed towards the slum and shouted, Everyone, I am Dixon, the accountant of the Lacan family. The villagers, seeing this, quickly asked back, Are you from the Lacan family? Witnessing this scene, Lacan thought to himself, I don't mind seeing the Lacan family decline, but there needs to be a right time for that. From the other side, his voice echoed back, I came here to improve living conditions. Then he turned and left his mind still constantly thinking, I need to improve this place. Lacan had gone far, leaving Dixon there, but the thought still lingered in his mind. So I can enhance my magic circle. Scene changed to the Lacan family mansion. An angry father's voice boomed, Tell me again, Philip, is it true that he paid off all his debts by gambling? Inside, Philip was tied up tightly with several chests of gold, silver, and treasures behind him. He was so worried that sweat poured down, and he stammered in reply, Yes, sir. Seeing Philip answer like that, the group of people wouldn't stop gossiping. Oh my God, he really solved his debt problems by gambling. If everyone finds out about this, the family's image will be ruined. A blond young man at this moment angrily scolded Philip. Why didn't you stop him? Butler Hans, beside him, helpless against Lacan, spoke up. We have built the family's reputation for centuries, yet he went and destroyed it all. Not only that, even Knight Commandre Rogers was furious with him, gritting his teeth and calling out, Philip, Hearing that, Philip, with a bewildered and frightened expression, replied, Yes. He stepped forward, crossed his arms, and questioned. His identity wasn't revealed right. Philip calmly replied, Of course not. I'm not that stupid. But as soon as the words came out, memories quickly flooded back when he himself had said, How dare you use a weapon against the sole heir of the Lacan family? At this moment, he realized what he had said. Thunderstruck with fear, his face darkened. Philip quickly bowed apologetically and corrected what he had just said. I guess I really am a fool. causing Knight Rogers to be unable to contain his anger and curse. "You idiot!" He could only cry and argue back, but not in the matches, that's the truth. This made Rogers tremble with anger, clenching his fists. Butler Hans, seeing this, also spoke up to explain. Even if his identity wasn't revealed in the casino, it's only a matter of time before everyone knows, considering Count Monac's intelligence capabilities. Butler Hans recounted that he was the Lord of Lamer, so all news would reach his ears given his malicious nature. He might seek revenge. If he does, in reality, we can't do anything, because he is a distant relative of the Emperor. Hearing the explanation from the butler, Rogers had to rest his chin on his hand and speculate. Count Monac expanded his territory through wars, and basically we've given him a reason to wage war against us. Knight Commander Rogers was still engrossed in discussion. I wonder what the young master was thinking when he did that. Meanwhile, a foot had stepped in. Lacan's stern voice rang out, "I can't listen anymore," startling them. The three of them quickly turned around and hurriedly replied, "Young master," he calmly said, "where are all those who said the family's reputation is important?" Lacan's sharp eyes stared intently as he continued, "Are you saying we should just ignore the bad deeds happening right before our eyes?" Knight Rogers then spoke up in response, "We are just speaking realistically." Lacan calmly crossed his arms and listened as he continued, "Our military strength is nothing compared to Count Monac's. We just wanted to inform you." He remained silent and listened to Rogers explain that his decision had put the family in danger. Then Lacan finally snapped back, "You achieved the title of hero by licking the boots of those in power." He raised his voice and said, "Weren't you bestowed the title of hero because you fought even in the most unfavorable situations for justice?" This made Rogers stunned as well. Butler Hans then spoke up to defend everyone. "The people here are giving their all for the Lacan family. How can you say such things?" Hearing that, Lacan immediately shouted, "So have the problems been resolved?" Yet, this question struck Butler Hans's mind, making his answer hesitant. That Lacan frowned at them and said, "And yet you make a big deal about my gambling." But Butler Hans snapped back at him, "This is a serious matter." The old man worried. "If people find out that you paid off your debts with money earned from gambling, the Lacan family's reputation will plummet." Lacan couldn't stand it anymore. Stepped in front of Butler Hans, pointed straight at his face, and angrily shouted, "Enough! Does a good reputation solve famine?" Lacan's anger had now reached its peak. "Your duty is to protect the people. The people of Viscount Ling's domain are starving and leaving because they can't endure the living conditions." Butler Hans could only bow his head and listen to him scold, "And yet you still can't rearrange your priorities. Truly foolish." After Lacan finished speaking, he turned and left, not forgetting to add, "I will not tolerate behavior like this anymore. From now on, everything will change." He emphasized to them, "If you think my orders are wrong, you can leave. Those who cannot obey my orders." Butler Hans flinched, his eyebrows furrowing as he heard Lacan say, "Will all be dismissed." The old man, alarmed, spoke up, "Young master," quickly running after Lacan to stop this decision, "everyone here has served the Lacan family for a very long time." Hearing the butler say that, he could only sigh, "Yes, and I don't like people with narrow-minded views. I will show you my determination." Then Lacan approached this side and said, "Philip, you did very well on our trip. You are as talented as a captain." These words from Lacan made him stand still, confused. He asked back, "Me? I wouldn't say that." He continued affirmatively, "I think only a talented person deserves to be the knight captain." Then he turned and asked, "What do you think, Rogers?" He replied, "Young master, you're trying to—" Lacan gave a sinister smile and said, "It's simple." Then he made another offer. "The winner of the duel will be appointed as the knight captain." As soon as he said this, Philip lunged forward to object. "I can't do that. He's my uncle and the one who taught me how to use a sword." Then Knight Rogers spoke up to stop him. "Silence, Philip." He interrupted, "But—" Lacan coldly replied, "I hope you're as good as you say." Scene changed to the arena. Below in the field were the figures of the two of them. Rogers spoke first. "It's been a long time since we fought. Just the two of us, huh?" Philip, on the opposite side, also quickly replied, "However, yes, it's been several years. I'm very confused about all of this." Philip drew the sword in his hand and continued, "Therefore, I just intend to give it my all." Knight Rogers also smiled, accepting Philip's challenge, and replied, "All right." The two of them, weapons in hand, stared at each other. Their determination to win soared to the heavens. Lacan's comment rang out, "This will surely be fun." Lacan crossed his arms, observing the match between Knight Commander Rogers and Philip. Philip held his weapon firmly, looking extremely tense. "I'm here." Lacan was quite surprised to see the bewildered expression on his face. "Philip looks tense. Is Rogers that strong?" Philip knelt on one knee on the ground, extremely focused mana continuously accumulating around him. His eyes lit up, a huge source of mana continuously appeared. Lacan assessed, I know Philip is very strong. Philip attacked Knight Commander Rogers with his sword, his magic sword cutting a line through the air. Philip turned his head to look with some anticipation, but on Rogers's shoulder only a wisp of white smoke appeared. It seems you've gotten better, Philip. Your skills have improved. Philip once again accumulated magic. I'm different from before, Uncle. In the training ground at this moment, a colossal power erupted. The ground couldn't withstand it and shattered. Rogers stared intently at his every move. He was very amused to see Philip running around him at a speed invisible to the naked eye. What? Because Philip's speed was too fast, illusions constantly appeared. Rogers also had difficulty grasping his every action. You're not just kidding around, are you? At this very moment, Philip had appeared behind him, but immediately Rogers recognized this presence. He laughed. Understood. There's a reason the young master praises you. Rogers didn't turn his head, but easily grabbed Philip's collar. However, to become the sword that protects the family, he threw Philip hard to the ground. You need to practice much more. Immediately, a dent appeared on the ground. Philip felt as if all his bones were shattering. Rogers slowly extended his leg. He gently kicked Philip into the air. He was thrown to the point where he couldn't resist. Philip angrily gritted his teeth, his face darkening accordingly. He was extremely determined. It's not over yet. But at this moment, the sword was already at Philip's neck. Rogers looked at his unwilling face. The match is over. Philip's face was reflected on the sword's blade. After that, he also had to admit defeat. I surrender. Rogers looked towards Lacan again, his voice low. Young master, this is enough. A powerful stream of magic continuously emanated from Rogers' body. To show you why I am the Knight Commander yet, Lacan's eyes lit up brightly. He smiled with satisfaction. Very impressive. After that, he still sat there to observe the Knight Squad's training session. Rogers looked at the Knights running behind with tired faces. He shouted loudly, Don't stop. We haven't run enough yet. Those behind immediately replied, I'm sorry. He kept urging, the young master is watching, run faster. They helpless chorused, Yes, yes. Lacan rested his cheek on his hand, one eye slightly closed. I didn't expect you to lose so easily. Philip's head was upside down on the ground, his whole body trembling incessantly. Philip stammered, But Uncle Rogers is one of the 5 strongest swordsmen on the continent. After hearing that, Lacan calmly replied, Well then, if someone targets me, I can only wait for death. Philip was kneeling with his head on the ground, extremely remorseful. I'm sorry. Lacan's voice suddenly became serious. Philip, I intend to choose you as my official escort knight. Philip's eyes widened as if he couldn't believe what he heard. Make sure to do whatever it takes to fulfill that role. Philip's eyes immediately welled up with tears which overflowed. Philip clasped his hands together, his voice ringing with determination. I will do my best. Tears and snot streamed down his face. To become the sword that protects you, sir. I will show you that I am worthy of your trust. After hearing that, Lacan was somewhat satisfied, then quickly joined their training. Philip loudly replied, Yes, young master. Lacan sighed inwardly. Truly, 10 out of 50 knights are considered veterans. I must thank this warrior family lineage. Looking towards Rogers, who was laughing and running with him, not just Philip Rogers, too. They are outstanding talents that almost everyone desires. The sky was turning a deep orange, the sunlight gradually obscured by the castle. If so, the reason for the family's current state was clear. Butler Hans trembled, stammering, What is it? Do you know what you're doing, sir? On the ground, many books lay scattered. Butler Hans's incredulous voice rang out, First selling the statue. The scribes beside him were busy cleaning up the valuable items. Now you're selling the family's entire treasure. He shouted loudly, Are you planning to throw away the honor of this family? Butler Hans's voice made the cleaning actions of those nearby freeze. Lacan didn't even bother looking at the old man. He was intently reading a piece of paper in his hand. If I can make money, I'll do it. Butler Hans slammed his hand on the table. The old man seemed unable to accept Lacan's indifference. Young master, why are you doing this? Butler Hans stared at him, his shoulders trembling incessantly. Lacan's gaze gradually shifted from the paper to Butler Hans. He looked past the portrait on the ground and the countless papers. The warrior of de Lacan, who died 500 years ago, is no longer useful to us now. After hearing that, Butler Hans seemed to freeze. The old man was extremely angry. How could you say such things? Lacan placed the paper on the table. Just think about it. His eyes narrowed. Because of those rules we keep clinging to. all under the name of the Delacan warrior. That's why the family has declined to its current state. Lacan's words directly struck Butler Hans. It's all because of people like you that the family's name has fallen. The old man couldn't accept this. Impossible if it weren't for the Demon King's curse. Every word from Lacan startled the old man. That attitude is also a problem. Praising the Lukek of those who came before and blaming the decline on the Demon King. Lacan picked up a dagger. Let me be clear, I intend to become someone even greater than the Dai-Lacan warrior. That dagger was raised high by him. So if you still intend to cling to those old-fashioned principles, Lacan gritted his teeth and stabbed the dagger forcefully into the paper on the table. His voice was extremely gloomy. I will erase your name from the family's history. At this moment, a loud noise suddenly rang out. The others, startled, ran towards Butler Hans. Are you okay, Mr. Hans? He clutched his face. Young master, no young lord. I still remember when you used to sit on my lap and listen to me read. The others were deeply moved upon hearing Butler Hans speak. I can't believe you've changed so much. The old man's head nearly slumped down. The way you continuously visit the Demon King's castle, there's no doubt anymore. The dagger on the table reflected Butler Hans's extremely angry face. It's definitely because of the Demon King's curse. Right at this moment, Philip called out, Young master. He was extremely flustered. Just this once, can you listen to Mr. Hans? What you just said is too... The Lacan group helped Philip say the two words, cruel, barbaric. He rubbed his chin with great interest. I think a little differently. His voice rang out, making Philip tremble. I intend not to give Mr. Hans time to think and to delay as much as possible. Finally, Lacan concluded, Well, we'll talk about that later. Have you completed the task I assigned you yet? Philip startled. That thing. He appeared extremely flustered. Young master, you're too loud. This is information I had a hard time getting from Mr. Hans. Lacan stared at him. So, where is it? Black lines appeared on Philip's face. It's you, sir. Please lower your voice a bit. He whispered, That matter. Scene changed to the castle's dungeon. Someone slowly approached a prison cell. There wasn't a single guard around. A voice came from outside. Philip, this is different from what I told you. Inside this prison cell, an extremely thin man was imprisoned. Doesn't he look like he's already dead? At this moment, the iron bars suddenly made a sound. Philip's voice was flustered. Oh, just yesterday, the person imprisoned in this cell spoke. Who are you? Lacan was extremely excited as he felt a terrifying pressure. This immense pressure was clearly the power of a level 5 mage. He seemed to see a monster hidden within the man's thin body. No, perhaps even stronger. The man's voice was incredibly gloomy. Don't make me repeat myself. His eyes were bloodshot. He growled. Answer quickly. Who are you? The Iron Mage. Soothmew stared intently at Lacan and Philip. He observed him. I heard you've been imprisoned here for a very long time, but you seem to be doing fine. He was stunned. This voice, could it be? Lacan appeared extremely noble. What is the only Iron Mage of the territory doing rotting away in a place like this? He was extremely agitated. Young master, why have you come to this place for me? Lacan asked back, Do you think I would turn a blind eye when someone is being lazy in my territory? He slowly approached the Iron Mage. I heard you harmed yourself by fasting. Is that why Hans imprisoned you here? He stammered, That thing. The Iron Mage was extremely remorseful. You lost consciousness due to an accident involving a gigant caused by my carelessness. Is that so, young master? I ask for nothing more than to atone for my mistake with my life. Lacan looked at him. Do you believe your life is worth that much? Besides, the gigant accident has been confirmed not to be your fault. But his expression remained somber. If I had examined it more carefully, that wouldn't have happened. The Iron Mage bowed his head to the ground. It's my fault. Please punish me. Lacan was extremely angry at this stubbornness. I understand you are very loyal, but you are killing me with your stubbornness. Philip beside him had slung a bag over his shoulder. Let's go back, now. He was determined. There's no other way. Lacan said to the Iron Mage, Since you want it this way, I will do as you wish. He appeared extremely serious. Philip, bring me a sword. Philip, being called out, flinched. What is it? Young master, the Iron Mage closed his eyes as if he were waiting for this final moment of execution in his life. Lacan slowly drew his sword. You begged me, so I will give you a fitting punishment. Philip beside him was still confused, not understanding what was happening. Lacan raised his sword high, his voice stern. Don't blame me. The sword slashed straight down in one stroke. The iron chain was severed in two. The Iron Mage, extremely bewildered, looked at his own hands. He was greatly astonished. Young master, what does this mean? Khan sheathed his sword. Using you will be more beneficial to me than killing you. I cannot tolerate failure. The Iron Mage's face was extremely bewildered upon hearing his words. I intend to exhaust you to the point where you wish you were dead. Philip beside him, listening to his words, was also very impressed. That is your duty. You must be loyal to me for life and support me. Tell me your honorable name as a mage and etch this moment deep into your heart. Lacan suddenly extended his hand. Philip, take it out. Philip suddenly called out, was a bit flustered. Yes, yes, sir. Gold coins continuously fell before Mute's eyes. A heavy bag of money fell to the ground. He couldn't believe it. Young master, where did this money come from? Lacan wasn't too sure. It's nothing, probably just around 70,000 pesos, I think. He once again raised his sword. Lacan pointed his sword at Mute. Use this money and prepare to build a magic spell. Buy any magic books you need and prepare the necessary equipment to repair and create giants. His voice seemed to possess immense power, making even a great mage like Mute tremble. Unlike the previous lords, I intend to invest heavily in magic. Make sure such an incident never happens again. Tears continuously rolled down Mute's thin cheeks. However I have harmed you, young master, I don't know if I deserve such kindness anymore. Lacan appeared cold. What do you think you're saying? The Iron Mage pressed his lips together, his voice extremely cold. This is a punishment. Lacan extended his hand. Be resolute, I have no intention of forgiving you so easily. Mute's mouth gaped open. He bowed his head. I am the Iron Mage of the Lacan family, Mute, until the day I close my eyes and pass away. When he raised his head, Mute's face seemed to be illuminated by light. He was extremely determined. I swear I will dedicate myself to atoning for my sins. Lacan was extremely satisfied seeing the bright mana emanating from his body. Philip also had to cover his eyes. As expected from Mr. Mute, the amount of mana is incredible. Lacan smiled. This man has no flexibility at all, but his rigidity will be a beacon in times of crisis. He continued, there are only 2 available people in the territory, so I will entrust them to you. Butler Han hid behind a wall, silently watching them. The old man adjusted his glasses. He managed to persuade someone as stubborn as Mute. Butler Hans's face became serious. Truly an astonishing person, but I don't know why I still feel uneasy. Time flew by. A month later in the training ground, a commanding voice rang out, focus your energy from your abdomen. Yes, sir. Butler Hans and the others stood high above, observing. This family is changing. Lacan's voice continued to ring out from below. Correct your posture, Philip. Oh, wow. Philip's face was covered in sweat. Philip, who was previously not very serious, was now training harder than anyone else. Beside him, Mute was instructing others in magic. Mute, who once hid in shame for his past mistakes, was now proactively training the new recruits. At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out, long time no see, everyone. The 3 of them flinched and looked back. This voice is... They were very surprised. Mr. Dixon raised his hand in greeting. It's a relief to see everyone is okay. Butler Hans hurriedly inquired, because we had to search for you, the entire territory was in chaos. Where have you been all this time? His face was extremely excited. He chuckled. I'm sorry for unintentionally worrying everyone. It's a long story, but the 3 were a bit stunned by Dixon's words. I think it's better to explain while showing everyone. Butler Hans looked panicked. How could it be like this? He shouted loudly as he looked around. Is this a slum? Dixon just smiled. Mr. Hans, I can't let you be too surprised right from the beginning like this. Do you see that market over there? Around the people were laughing and talking very happily, unlike before. Now everyone could freely sell their goods. This was decided together with all the residents here. They all wore extremely excited expressions. Now everyone was discussing how to improve the territory, and old inefficient traditions were gradually being abolished. He looked at Butler Hans. Mr. Hans. Butler Hans didn't seem to fit in with this cheerful and bustling atmosphere at all. His face was extremely sad. The old man pursed his lips. I have no other choice but to agree. Butler. Hans's hand placed behind his back clenched tightly. However, it cannot be denied. The sun was once again obscured behind the castle. The old man thought to himself that everything happening now was contrary to the Lacan family's policies for the past 500 years. After hearing the story, Knight Commander Rogers just chuckled. I also had the same concerns as you do now, but I've let them all go. He sighed. He has proven himself with results, so I have nothing more to say. Rogers stood up. Oh, it's time for training, so I must take my leave. He looked at Butler Hans's extremely bewildered face and added, however, Rogers opened the door. Don't you think we have an obligation to place our complete trust in the young master? With that, he closed the door and stepped outside. Well then, I'll go first. Only Butler Han remained sitting there, unable to utter a word. The old man's face was a bit sad. In that short period of time, everyone has. Butler Hans looked at his reflection in the teacup, completely conquered. Outside, it was raining incessantly. A week had passed. Raindrops continuously fell on Lacan's head. The surrounding documents were also soaked. I'm sorry for assigning too much work, Hans. Even so, I'm still counting on you. Butler Hans caught raindrops from the hole in the ceiling. Besides, I'll deal with the office-related issues tomorrow. If there are any other issues, please let me know. I can also fix them myself. Lacan seemed completely unaffected by the rain. Your priority is wrong, Han. The words on the paper he was writing were blurred. People with nowhere to shelter from the rain are flooding our territory. Lacan continued, think of those people first. After hearing that, the old man's hand clenched tightly. Butler Hans's determination grew even stronger. The more I understand the young master, the more I see that following him is the right thing to do. It was still raining, but in the distance, a faint light began to appear. However, in the end, a bolt of lightning struck across the window, illuminating the old man's face. I must clearly determine the young master's true intentions. Night fell again. Everything began to sink into silence. But in the deep forest, there were still strange noises. Butler Hans's movements were incredibly agile. He continuously leaped from one branch to another. Lacan carried a large bag on his shoulder, constantly looking left and right. The old man tried to follow him as closely as possible. Every night he sneaks off somewhere. Butler Hans observed Lacan's every move. And these regular visits are to the Demon King's castle. The old man's face tensed. I don't want to think about it, but if the young master is possessed by the Demon King due to the curse, Butler Hans was bewildered when he saw Lacan stop at an empty spot. Then why did you stop here, sir? The old man looked at Lacan's back. Butler Hans speculated, could it be that you noticed I was following you? At this moment, the old man suddenly heard a call, followed by the footsteps of young men. Are you here, sir young master? Butler Hans's face darkened when he heard Lacan's voice. Have you dealt with what I asked for? The old man was frightened. Impossible. Those people appeared extremely excited. Of course we've done it. For us, a matter like this is easier than taking candy from a baby. Butler Hans immediately recognized them. Those people, they are the robbers who were expelled from our territory for looting. Around here, there were well-built houses and warm lamplight could be seen from inside. The old man found it hard to believe, and yet they live here in the darkness, and it seems there are many of them. Lacan carried a large bag. You guys work really fast. I like that. He rummaged in the bag. Well, then let's begin. The group was extremely excited. What's in the bag? Have you prepared gifts for us? Lacan replied, yes, that's right, if you've prepared from there. One of the men picked up a red-covered book and laughed. Don't worry, we understand. That book is perfect. A flash of light flashed through Butler Han's mind. Books. Why did you give books to those robbers? He frowned. Damn too far, I can't hear. Young master, what are you going to do? But at this moment, the other group of people were so happy that they burst into tears. Thanks to you, we are no longer illiterate because you summarized the main parts so we can understand everything. Butler Hans's mind was filled with question marks. The other person's voice was filled with joy. Thank you for everything. A mother and son there also wore moved expressions. Thank you, sir, young master, even children can read. Another person introduced his sick wife. Thanks to the food and medicine you brought, my wife can walk again. Everyone was extremely moved and shouted, you are the savior of my family. Thank you very much, young master. Lali. Lacan playfully winked. Well, I'm also very happy because I like it very much. Suddenly, his voice became serious. However, everything has its price. I'm sure everyone is prepared. They immediately looked him straight in the eye with serious faces. Of course, even though we are robbers, we are not ungrateful beasts. One of them shouted loudly, give the order, sir. We will do as you say. Lacan smiled. Perfect. He pulled out the cloth bag and a pile of books, and gold coins immediately fell to the ground. Butler Hans was extremely surprised. So much money. Perhaps around 10,000 pesos. And books. What is he planning to do? The other group was also very confused. All of this. I understand the books, but the money. But Lacan just calmly said, the answer is in the books. Once you read them, you'll understand. That person read out the words in the book, household registration and land transfer. This plan had been thoroughly researched by Dixon and Philip. Lacan slowly explained, yes, that is a document recognizing you as official residents of the territory. With this, you will have the right to own land. I will build a town nearby. Everyone can come and live there. After hearing that, they couldn't help but tremble. No, I can't believe it. We're just robbers who betrayed the Lord. He couldn't hold back his tears of gratitude. We are already very grateful that you noticed us. After everything you've done, we can't accept this anymore. They were now extremely remorseful. That's right, we have no right to receive this gift. We only rob others to survive. They bowed their heads. Even though we are very grateful, the current residents will not accept us. Lacan also understood the reason clearly. I understand. I also don't completely accept you. He looked at them seriously. Even if there's no other choice, robbery is still a serious crime. However, the truth is that the Delacan family forced you to do it, which is another crime I cannot forgive. Their faces all wore bewildered expressions. Lacan continued, even though you stole from others because you didn't harm anyone, I believe you deserve a chance to atone for your sins. He talked about the pile of glittering gold coins on the ground. This amount of money is worth half the fee. Lacan was very serious. From now on, you will become mercenaries. On a high branch, a large snake was eyeing a nest of young birds. His voice, as if possessing power, echoed throughout the mountains and forests. If you frighten others. The leaves were blown away by the wind slowly drifting in the air. Then prepare to die in battle. At this moment, the mother bird had returned. She spread her wings wide. That is the way to atone. The soft light of the moon seemed to add strength to their new lives. This is the future I can give you? A green leaf fell into Lacan's palm. But the path you choose to take is up to you. He smiled lightly. Small leaves continuously floated in the air. So I will place my trust in that. The man opposite, after hearing that, couldn't utter a word. He pressed his lips together tightly. Immediately after they gripped their weapons tightly, young master, we robbers. They raised their axes and wooden clubs high. We will use our lives to protect this territory. The soft light of a moonlit evening and the stars gradually shining down on each treetop. Butler Hans kept thinking in his heart, robbers in the territory are considered a target that needs to be controlled. He let the leaves fly over him. That was the rule of the Lacan family. Butler Hans gripped the table tightly, not knowing if what he had believed until now was the right choice or not. He collapsed to the ground. No, I chose to ignore the screams of strangers. Butler Hans blamed himself. You fool, you understood the young master's intentions and doubted him. The bright moonlight in the sky seemed to illuminate his mistakes. Now I understand. The young lord intends to improve the territory. A green leaf slowly fell to the ground. I promise to atone for this mistake. 2 lines of tears flowed down the butler Hans's face. By serving beside you, sir. Lacan glanced at the old man, who was constantly wiping his tears, and thought to himself, finally, he's letting his guard down. He smirked. It really is difficult to handle. The group said goodbye to Lacan. Take care on your way back. They were extremely excited. Thank you, sir. He also waved back. Butler Hans clenched his fists, his gaze filled with determination as he watched Lacan's retreating figure. He walked for a while and then stopped. Lacan sighed wearily. He was somewhat satisfied. It's so difficult. Most people have been taken care of. In the large bag Lacan was carrying, an object suddenly appeared, emitting a dazzling purple light. Now then, he was holding a magical teleportation device in his hand. Lacan smiled. Let's start the real work. The moonlight shone on the Demon King's castle again. Lacan looked around. Even though I'm quite satisfied now. He watched the golem monsters working diligently, but there are still many problems. The golem monsters continued to clean everything up. Lacan thought to himself, even though I've regained everyone's trust, I've also sacrificed too much. I've spent most of the money I earned in Laymare. He gradually became more serious. We need a stable source of income. Suddenly, Lacan gave a strange smile. I guess I'll have to use that thing, huh? He called out to the golem, hey, you two. Lacan's entire body seemed to be covered in dark magic. The magical tool in his hand also glowed eerily. Why don't you help me out a bit? The golem monster's 2 purple eyes gradually distorted. It didn't understand when it saw its master's terrifying expression. In the Demon King's castle, a dazzling purple light suddenly flashed. The nearby bats were also frightened and flew away. Immediately after, the loud roar of a golem echoed. Inside an office, a conversation was taking place. Young master, we have spent all 2,100 earned from Lamer. I know it won't be enough to continue running the territory. Philip, holding the ledger, asked, what are you planning to do, sir? Should we go on another trip? Lacan, annoyed, ordered, silence. Philip, have you brought the mine development records yet? He looked at the pile of papers in his hand and reported that there are only records of failures from previous decades. Although we've searched the entire territory, there's no sign of any mines. Lacan couldn't help but sigh as he looked over. So what reason made us incur so much debt just for such a small opportunity? Philip flustered explained. Well, because that was the only choice back then. He added more information. We are in a terrible situation due to a few unfortunate events that happened in a short period of time, and when the people left you, sir, were unconscious. Hearing that Lacan couldn't help but feel dejected, and there's no choice but to cling to a rotten rope. He realized, understood. If the harvest fails, it's impossible to maintain the territory. Lacan couldn't help but suspect, however something is wrong, there should be a mine. Suddenly, he noticed something. Lacan pointed to a location on the map and asked, why isn't there a diagram here? Philip's face turned pale when he recognized the location, the Rokia Mountains. Scouting this area is too difficult because there are dozens of monsters there. Thinking of the forest teeming with monsters lurking around, he said, even though we've sent knights there several times to scout, but because monsters were hiding in every nook and cranny, they were forced to return empty-handed. Lacan suddenly smiled. So, it's impossible to scout that area. Philip was startled when he heard his question. Don't tell me you have some strange plan again. Seeing Lacan suddenly give a calculating smile, he shouted loudly, no, that place is very dangerous. If you intend to go, you must take me with you. It must be that place. Scene changed to the Rokia Mountains. Lacan looked up and exclaimed, that bastard Philip, I thought he was just overreacting. A giant orc monster was staring intently at him. Green monsters also appeared on the trees waiting for an opportunity. Lacan stood before a horde of giant monsters like that. So it was true, huh? This time, he frowned and observed, how strange. Beside the orc monsters now were other types of monsters. These monsters should live in separate areas. Why are they cooperating with each other? Lacan began to show some interest and asked, don't tell me you're used to dealing with humans now. A giant orc monster holding a weapon rushed forward. He easily dodged the attack it launched at him. The ground beneath Lacan's feet immediately cracked, forcing him to jump into the air. As soon as Lacan landed, another monster holding a weapon rushed forward. He immediately raised his hand to summon a source of energy. You bastards! You think you're so tough, huh? Then Lacan extended his hand to create a magic circle on the ground. From now on, I will deal with you myself. The monster shrieked in astonishment. He immediately summoned stone monsters to attack them. The stone men roared in anger. A green monster also roared and attacked a stone man. But the stone man had no problem at all. It lunged forward and delivered a direct punch to the green monster's body. The orc monster was sent flying far away by the stone man's punch. Lacan clutched one arm and smiled. This is better than I thought. The monsters turned their heads to look at the orc monster that was sent flying far away. I knew it. The mana stones of the future can handle it. At this moment, other green monsters holding weapons leaped down from the trees to attack, but they were easily sent flying by the stone man's punch. The stone man continued to charge forward, attacking the monsters. Lacan could only frown and smile. Lucidly, it's effective. Seeing the monsters continuously appear, he knew, but they keep coming. I understand why the knights failed. Lacan stood from afar, observing the battle. Dealing with all of them is very difficult, but his eyes suddenly lit up. It's not impossible. An orc monster in the back continuously emitted a huge amount of energy. Looking at its astonishing energy, Lacan guessed, considering his aura, he must be the leader. Then he stretched and got into a stance. All right, why don't I join the fun? Lacan used physical enhancement on his legs. The orc monster leader looked towards him puzzled, but it didn't know when Lacan had appeared behind it. I really don't have time for this. He extended his hand to create a huge amount of energy above the orc monster's head. Submit. It roared in pain. Lacan continued to use his power, brainwashing magic submit. The other orc monsters looked towards their leader puzzled. Lacan suddenly smiled. Oh dear. He brazenly sat on the orc monster's shoulder and said, it seems your orc monster leader is now my subordinate. The monster suddenly became dejected. It seems the victory is leaning towards me. The two sides stood facing each other like that. The green monsters holding swords hesitated and cried out. The lizard monsters also couldn't help but retreat in fear. Lacan rubbed his wrist and said with a smile, I won't harm you if you bring your leaders here. Around the Rokia Mountains, a bolt of lightning suddenly struck down. A green monster was being choked and cried out in pain. Lacan calmly grabbed it and held it up in the air, letting it scream as much as it wanted. Suddenly, the green monster clenched its teeth tightly. As soon as he let go, it fell to the ground unconscious. Then Lacan turned his head and said, I have a question. The remaining green monsters seeing this couldn't help but cry out in fear. He stood before the brainwashed monsters and asked the remaining ones, I heard there's a place that dwarves frequent. So does anyone among you know about it? The green monsters hearing this turned pale with fear because they didn't understand anything. Lacan silently observed the situation before him. He couldn't help but frown in disappointment. As expected, monsters of this size wouldn't know anything, huh? Suddenly, a monster cried out, making Lacan turn his head in attention. Please don't worry. The green monster immediately knelt on the ground. It was now completely brainwashed and said, I will lead you to that place, master. Hearing that, Lacan smiled and ordered, lead the way. A while later, he stood before a cave blocked by giant boulders. Lacan asked in disbelief, Is this the entrance? The monsters all nodded in unison. Yes, sir. He observed the blocked entrance. There are signs of a landslide, but something is strange. The monsters on this side continuously cried out loudly, making Lacan wonder, what's inside there after all? Hearing the surrounding monsters roar made him a bit annoyed. And these monsters are so scared. Lacan, full of interest, said, although I don't know what it is, once I go inside, it will be clear. He extended his hand to use a source of energy, dark fire. The colossal power source immediately exploded everything in front of Lacan. He smirked as expected. An entrance quickly appeared. There really is a mine there. The monsters behind all hugged their bodies tightly, making Lacan confused. Why are they like that? The orc monster leader cried out upon hearing him speak. All of you can go back now. Lacan walked towards them and set a condition. In return, you are never to harm humans again and live in peace until you receive orders from me. The monsters all cheered enthusiastically at his request. Hide yourselves until then. Lacan stood there, watching the retreating figures of the monsters who had run away. I believe there will come a time when they will be useful. Then he turned his head. Now then. Lacan walked into the mine in front of him like that. Let's begin, shall we? Scene changed to a place very long ago. A guard pointed and called out to a monster, You there in the past, with our superior techniques and strength, humanity oppressed other races. The lizard monster continuously beat and cried and said, I'm sorry. The guards, greatly enjoying beating the monster, wished that humans would be left behind on the continent. Suddenly, a large crack appeared on the wall above them. Therefore, seamen known as the Demon King began to burn down kingdom after kingdom. The lizard monsters were extremely astonished by the scene before them. Seamen appeared shattering the stone wall. To other races, he stood there looking down below, their savior. Scene changed to night at the Demon King's tower. Seaman sat on the throne listening to a monster report. He tiredly rested his hand. So your tribe has less than 10 survivors. The monster could only sadly bow its head low. Seaman rolled his eyes and ordered, create a separate base for them in another territory and have them do construction work. The Demon King's lackey bowed and replied, As you command. The monster continuously cried in gratitude, Thank you, sir. But he didn't care at all. Anyone else if not, then end it? And Simon hadn't finished speaking when someone interrupted, It seems I'm the last one. Everyone there turned their eyes to the person approaching. The dwarf stroked his beard and walked over. I wonder, is it all right to make an old man wait so long? The Demon King's lackey, hearing this, couldn't help but get angry. How dare you show such an attitude in front of... But Seaman raised his hand and ordered, It's all right, you may leave. His heart was now filled with alarm. I can't believe it, that the dwarves, the Earth race possessing the most advanced technology, have come here. Moreover, the energy emanating from him is... Seaman, feigning calmness, said, Well, look who it is. Even in my dreams, I never thought I'd meet an ancient dwarf. The dwarf was amused by his words. You're very observant, young man. It's hard to tell from my appearance. Seaman couldn't help but wonder, So why did you come here? I don't think humans can compare to you dwarves. The old man, with a disdainful expression, walked forward step by step. Humans. They lack technology and arbitrarily destroy nature. Because of them, many ecosystems have been destroyed. He smiled inquiringly. So you mean you'll help me, the one who wants to wipe them out? The dwarf frankly admitted, That's right. If you clear them out, then we will use our technology to improve your base. Seaman shrugged and laughed. I'm human too, but you still help me. He was surprised to hear loud laughter. He opened his mouth and laughed out loud. The dwarf held out his hand. What are you saying? You are the Demon King, right? Seaman smiled as he asked. The fire is shining everywhere now. Lacan held the torch and looked around. That dwarf mentioned a mine around here. It seems he was right. Suddenly he stopped. Lacan couldn't help but sigh at the surrounding scenery. It should have been in a state of disrepair, but unexpectedly it had survived so well. The scene he was standing in was extremely spacious and clear. The dwarf's ability was truly unparalleled. Along the cliff are countless scattered minerals. With the amount of minerals here, as long as there are people willing to do the miner work, our territory has nothing to worry about. Suddenly Lankan saw something. The road ahead of him was sealed. Strangely enough, the construction stopped here. He turned his head to look the other way. He looked at the objects arranged around him. He heard that, after I died, this place was occupied by humans. Is that why? On the other side was the abandoned mining area. Even so, there were still quite a few valuables scattered about. No matter how rushed could a dwarf who treasured the tools he made make such a mistake. At this moment, Luke realized something was wrong. Suddenly, the basement shook. He turned his head and saw something quickly flash by. A giant worm was constantly emerging, destroying the ground. The torch fell to the ground like that and went out. Luke de Lacan couldn't help but be astonished by the sight before him. Finally, he knew why. A giant shadow covered his entire body. The monsters were terrified again. The giant worm opened its mouth wide and roared, "Master of the mine, giant worm!" Luke de Lacan suddenly gave a mysterious smile. "So it's because of this guy that the mine was abandoned. Too bad, but you're too troublesome." He raised his hand, creating a huge source of energy. "So, you should disappear." A small explosion immediately appeared. Two stone monster humans appeared from the magic circle facing the giant worm. They just stared intently at the giant worm in front of them. It also opened its mouth and looked back. Suddenly, the giant worm raised its head and roared. Luke de Lacan raised his hand and ordered, "Advance!" The two stone monsters immediately rushed to attack the giant worm. They quickly blocked the head of the charging giant worm. The stone monster's feet dug deep, destroying the rock layer below. Luke de Lacan stood there watching the battle of the two giants before him. He just stood there, calmly witnessing everything. Luke de Lacan opened his mouth and ordered, "Pin it down." Then he jumped high, condensing a source of power into his palm. Luke de Lacan created an energy orb, dark fire. From midair, he shot it straight ahead, creating a large explosion. Then Luke de Lacan slowly descended. That should be enough to calm it down. But he couldn't help but be surprised at what he saw. The giant worm's body didn't have a single wound. I know my magic has weakened, but how can something take my attack without a scratch? The stone monsters, witnessing everything, also fell silent. Suddenly, the giant worm flung them away and raised its head to attack Luke de Lacan. It opened its mouth wide, ready to swallow him whole, but a stone monster quickly grabbed its body. The stone monster thus flung the giant worm away, saving Luke de Lacan. He fell beside it and praised, "Nice." The stone monster also cried out in response. The giant worm clenched its sharp teeth. Luke de Lacan was extremely alarmed when he saw that. He shouted, "Be careful!" But the stone monster didn't understand. It was immediately struck by the giant worm. The stone monster opened its mouth and cried out. Suddenly, minerals continuously fell from above. Luke de Lacan knelt on the ground in astonishment. How? The giant worm turned its head and continuously opened its mouth to eat the falling minerals. Its body suddenly grew more of the minerals it had just eaten. Luke de Lacan frowned, unable to believe his eyes. Impossible. The giant worm's body was covered in sturdy minerals. It ate minerals and evolved. Damn it, this is more troublesome now. The giant worm roared and attacked while he was still wondering, damn it, where did this thing come from? Luke de Lacan and his stone monsters quickly fled. No matter what skill I use, I can't deal damage. There's no other way. He ran towards the exit in front of him. If I want to defeat it, I have to bring the giant here, and a giant rock flew and destroyed Luke de Lacan's escape route. He angrily cursed, "Damn it!" The rocks now sealed the passage. It blocked the escape route. The giant worm reappeared before them, roaring loudly. Luke de Lacan felt a bit helpless. Tougher than I thought. Suddenly, he thought of something. Wait, Luke de Lacan couldn't help but think about the stones that had sealed the mine entrance earlier. If a monster of this size is wandering out there, there would be markings around the forest, wouldn't there? The giant worm was roaring in front of him. He wondered, or can it only live in the mine? Luke de Lacan worried. If so, bringing the giant here is useless. The giant is too big. He felt a bit helpless. This complicated thing, if I knew its weak point, I wouldn't be struggling like this. Suddenly, Luke de Lacan heard a loud roar. The two stone monsters were trying to hold the giant worm's body firmly. He immediately noticed a mineral on the giant worm's body. The strong flow was just interrupted. That's it. Luke de Lacan quickly ran in another direction and ordered, "Buy me more time." He ran while thinking, if I guessed correctly, there must be something nearby. Luke de Lacan glanced to his right. Where? Then he glanced to his left. Where is it? Suddenly, Luke de Lacan saw something. Found it? A pickaxe immediately appeared in front of him, an essential item for dwarves when mining. An ancient dwarven pickaxe. Luc de Lacan quickly used physical enhancement, causing the ground to shatter. All right, this should be effective. He furrowed his brows tightly. Then Luc de Lacan skillfully moved on the giant worm's body. He excitedly raised the pickaxe in his hand. With this, I can dig anything. Without hesitation, Luc de Lacan struck a mineral ore, causing it to crack. But then he was extremely astonished at what he saw. The giant worm had also quickly thrown Luc de Lacan off its body. Wait, he tried to hold on to a mineral. Damn it, not enough strength. But then Luc de Lacan could only cry out helplessly and let go. The giant worm flung him away, opened its mouth, and roared loudly. At this moment in Luc de Lacan's mansion, an argument was heard. Philip, do you know that the young master disappears every night? Philip sat on the chair, flustered, explaining, well, sometimes he disappears without prior notice. Knight Commander Rogers angrily interrupted, you fool. You mean the assigned escort knight doesn't know where his master is? Philip cried out helplessly, but every time I try to follow the young master, he disappears from sight. Knight Commander Rogers could only sigh and sit down upon hearing him. The townspeople say he often visits the Demon King's castle. He frowned and held his head. I didn't think clearly when I didn't know the situation. But now that I know, I understand why Han is always worried. Suddenly, someone interrupted, not anymore. Knight Commander Rogers turned to look at Butler Han, who repeated, there's no need to worry. The old man placed his hand on his chest and explained, actually, I've decided to completely trust the young master. Even now, I believe the young master, Butler Han's eyes were filled with trust, is doing his best for his people. Luc de Lacan was currently frowning, facing the challenge. He continued to raise his hand, creating an energy orb. Even though it's never been effective, I have to try. Stop everything. Luc de Lacan used dark fire, shooting it at the giant worm, making it scream in pain. And go die. Then he was immediately supported by the two stone monsters. So tired. Luc de Lacan looked up. Really? The giant worm had now exploded, making him feel relieved. I can't handle another one like that. A moment later, Luc de Lacan stood before a huge source of minerals. And thanks to that, we can save manpower. The two stone monsters were also diligently mining minerals from the giant worm's body. He suddenly noticed something. Luc de Lacan immediately picked up the torch and raised it. In front of him was a white skeleton squatting there, the bones of a dwarf. Luc de Lacan observed the supplies and equipment beside the skeleton, rare artifacts and some pieces of armor. He couldn't help but ponder. It seemed they tried to protect this place, to protect what they built. A moment later, a small grave was erected. All right, this should be enough, huh? Luc de Lacan touched the grave and said, now you have a place to rest in peace. Let go of all burdens and rest. Suddenly, he gave an enigmatic smile. I hope you understand too. Luc de Lacan held a device from the skeleton in his hand and said, even if I take all your things, it doesn't mean I have bad intentions. Okay,